Under the dark night sky, the ground was shrouded in smoke and dust, with debris flying everywhere. A massive monster roared as it bared its long tongue and razor-sharp teeth, its body surrounded by terrifying red sparks as it lunged at AG. In a flash, AG moved his arms, morphing into a pair of razor-edged blades that sliced clean through the creature's body. He landed lightly while the beast thrashed for a few moments before its body shattered into glowing blue fragments. Then, a powerful blow from above slammed into the earth, unleashing a blinding explosion and cracking the ground beneath. AG stabbed one of his blade arms straight into the floor, and brilliant crimson light burst outward. With a steely gaze and a confident smirk, AG declared, "Trash cleaned up. That makes 32 bodies." The sky grew gloomier. Ever since the great calamity that struck on Halloween of 2024, enormous monsters had begun attacking humans. The world had turned into a living hell teeming with grotesque creatures. The power gap between humans and monsters was overwhelming, and the only ones capable of fighting back were those who had broken past the limits of humanity. Two fully armored soldiers were firing desperately at a group of these monsters, but their bullets had no effect. One of them screamed, "No way, somebody help me." The other, equally shaken, cried out, "Where's the backup? They're not here yet." Just then, as one of the special ops soldiers was relaying information through his comms, he sensed something was off and turned around. Behind him, a massive monster was slowly advancing, mouth agape, sharp fangs glinting in the dim light as it let out a monstrous roar. Not far off, AG was already in action. In a blur, he swung his weapon and decapitated the monster in front of him. He landed gracefully atop the creature's fallen body. AG stood still, taking in the chaos around him, then calmly muttered, 33 bodies. He then rose to his full height, standing atop the horned skull of a slain beast, revealing one of his arms transformed into a gleaming blade. SS-class hyper-adaptive entity, a soldier down below muttered, stunned and unsure of where this man had come from. AG's face was covered in grime, his expression unreadable as he stared at the towering monsters in the distance. So far, everything's still under control, but no one ever told me creatures of that level still existed. The data and reality, they don't match at all. He bit his lip and tapped a control on the choker around his neck. "You said there were only 33 of them, right? You lied to me." A voice on the other end responded smugly, "I told you to call me master. I'm not the one on the front lines." Of course there are bound to be some errors in the intel. The voice chuckled slyly as its owner raised a hand to his face, grinning wickedly. Suddenly, someone shouted in panic, "Captain! Watch out! There's one more on the other side. Death!" AG turned his head just in time to see a massive, orb-shaped monster barreling toward him. His eyes widened, and he cursed under his breath, "Damn it!" Before he could react, the creature struck him with a devastating blow. Blood sprayed everywhere. The monster sneered arrogantly, stunned by how easily it had killed him. "Wow. You're really dead, huh?" AG's body collapsed lifelessly onto a jagged rock. "I can't move, those bastards were right. Dogs of the organization have no freedom, damn it." His vision began to blur. For the first time, AG desperately wanted to live. Even just one more day, "I wish I could live freely." The surrounding shards of glass suddenly shattered. When AG opened his eyes, he found himself staring at a toy carousel. He blinked, confused. "What the hell is this?" He slowly raised his hand and picked up a small pink pig with wings. At that moment, a chilling realization hit him. "I was supposed to be killed by that monster. Wait, this hand, is this really mine?" He suddenly sat up, still clutching the little pink pig in his hand. A wave of confusion and panic washed over him. "Don't tell me! I've turned into a baby." Still in shock, he heard footsteps slowly approaching his crib. AG turned his head anxiously, but it was too dark, he couldn't make out who was coming. "Who is it?" he wondered. Could it be someone from the organization? A massive shadow loomed over him. Then, a soft hand reached out and gently grasped his tiny fingers. It was his mother. She spoke to him in a sweet, gentle voice. "AG-chan, you're awake. It's mommy." His eyes widened in disbelief. His face went blank, sweat trickling down as he muttered, "Huh?" She walked over to the cabinet, put on an apron, and stood there admiring him from a distance. AG sat there, stunned and silent, staring at the cheerful woman singing to herself while working in the kitchen. What the hell is going on? He stopped looking at her and turned toward the source of the background noise. The TV's still on. I can hear people talking outside. There are no signs of any monsters. He froze for a moment, deep in thought. Don't tell me I've been reincarnated? Into a timeline where the great calamity never happened? If that's true, then the organization doesn't exist either. AG clenched his teeth in tension. That means his eyes lit up with overwhelming joy. I'm free. The god of fate hasn't abandoned me after all. As he rejoiced internally, his eyes fell on the calendar hanging on the wall. I'll remember this day as the start of my new life. Wait. His expression froze, his whole body going stiff as he stared at the date in disbelief. 2020. This is before the great calamity. AG collapsed face down on the crib mattress, groaning in despair. No way, why now? In this body I can't do anything. But he quickly pulled himself up, placing both hands firmly on the mattress with fierce determination. No, I'm the great Kei-sama. Nothing is impossible. He tensed every muscle, trying to stand. But he couldn't hold it for long and fell back onto the mattress. Damn it, he cursed internally. I'm still at the stage where I can't even stand. He tried to speak, but could only let out a soft babble. My throat feels weird. I can't talk yet. Sweat dripped down as he grit his teeth in frustration. I can't do anything in this state, and every second counts. He turned to look at the woman, his new mother, still busy in the kitchen. Should I rely on this woman? The one who's my mother in this life? He rested his chin on his hand, eyes narrowing into a devilish little smirk. No, not rely on use. She's got to have at least one useful skill. He tried to picture her as the perfect mom. Maybe she's crafty. But just as she reached for something on the shelf, she fumbled. Ack, she cried, as a box fell off the top shelf and landed squarely on her head. Still trying to salvage a sliver of hope, he thought maybe at least she's quick on her feet. But reality crushed that thought too. Smoke started rising from beside her, and she just stood there, frozen in confusion. Maybe she can cook, he prayed. But then he heard her scream from the kitchen and saw flames flickering behind her. No, the house is about to burn down. AG burst into tears, losing it completely. She's totally useless. After wrestling with chaos in the kitchen, Yingyu stumbled back to the crib, hair disheveled and face smudged with soot but still wearing a gentle smile. It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy will make you some milk right away, she said softly. AG stared at the woman before him with growing dread. It's like the end of the world is already here. He flopped face first onto the bed with a groan. The road ahead is gonna be hell. Suddenly, a voice called out from outside, delivery here. Delighted, she chirped, coming. As she rushed toward the door. But just as her hand reached the doorknob, she froze, realizing something. Oh right. I need to pay the delivery fee. She called out, 1 second please. AG gripped the side of the crib, curious. Delivery. He stared at the front door, deep in thought. It's been ages since I last heard that word. A delivery guy usually interacts with tons of people. A chill ran down his spine. What if he's infected? His eyes darted toward the door. Wait a second, AG's mind spiraled, imagining the worst. Delivery, no. The door creaked open. A single footstep echoed. Then a low, menacing voice cut through the air. Delivery area. Pale hand emerged, holding out a package. Here's your order, please take it. Standing before AG was a delivery monster. Its voice sounded like it had crawled up from the depths of hell, growling slowly. Delivery, take it now. Crimson lights crackled around its writhing tentacles, each one holding a different item. It was terrifying. AG broke into a cold sweat, gritting his teeth. Seriously, his eyes darted around the room, searching. Is there anything I can use? He spotted a pillow, grabbed it, and hurled it with all his might. But his infant body was too weak. The pillow dropped limply in front of him. Damn it. Is this all I've got? Suddenly a sharp red object flew straight at him. The crib tipped over with a crash, sending AG tumbling to the floor. Thankfully, the fallen pillow cushioned his fall. The delivery monster had attacked, tearing apart the door in its rampage. AG grabbed the milk bottle and assumed a battle stance. If that thing touches me, I'm dead. He recalled his past life as a hero. I've faced and studied all kinds of monsters on the battlefield. From the shape alone, I can tell, a human body can never match up to one of those. This one's a brute type, pure power amplifier. The monster groaned and reached a massive hand toward him. Delivery, delivery, delivery. AG's eyes locked onto the tentacles writhing atop its head. Its raw strength is scary enough, But those things look way more dangerous. I've got no choice but to risk it. He placed the milk bottle on the ground, determination in his eyes. Here goes nothing. With a swift motion he nudged it, sending the bottle rolling toward the delivery beast. It hit the monster's foot. Strong, but slow to react. If I exploit that, I can throw off its balance. Just as he predicted, the monster slipped. Its body tilted backward right into a glass window behind it. The glass shattered from the impact, and the monster tumbled out. Still, its voice echoed faintly. Delivery. AG let out a sigh of relief, gazing proudly out the window. Finally, I never thought I'd be grateful for those brutal battles in my past life. But behind him, something stirred. A teddy tail slithered into view. Suddenly its tongue lashed out like a blade, catching AG completely off guard. The tail had absorbed something from within the delivery monster's body, some kind of internal essence. It coiled back toward AG, greedily devouring the hardened substance as if it were feasting. AG stared in horror. Is it eating? AG quickly grabbed the tail that had clamped down on the object retrieved from the delivery monster. He held it up, stunned. His sweat trickled down his forehead as his eyes sparkled with tension, staring into the distance. This is my power from my previous life. The sharp, jagged object was actually a tail growing from his own back. AG's heart sank in disbelief. The touty tail. His thoughts spiraled. Why do I have my previous life's abilities? And more importantly, I was born after the Great Calamity, 3 years after it happened. But right now it's still 4 years before that event. He clenched his teeth, mind racing. None of this makes any sense anymore. Memories flashed through his mind. He once stood alone on the battlefield, slaying thousands of monsters without breaking a sweat. And now, somehow, he possessed a fragment of that power again. A grin crept across his face. Still, I'm lucky. The tatty tail can absorb monster cores and turn their skills into my own. He sat down and waved his hand. Crimson and black ribbons of energy coiled around him. Let's see what happens. Time for a little test. Suddenly, a streak of light shot out from his hand, slicing clean through the crib. It split into two with a sizzle, smoke rising from the smoldering wood. AG's face lit up with smug satisfaction. Then he laughed darkly. The earlier a gifted one awakens, the greater their power. In my past life I awakened at 7 and made it to S rank. But with a devilish little smirk, he whispered to himself, this time I might just reach mythical SSS rank, forgetting completely that he was still a baby. Under a golden spotlight, AG imagined himself lounging in the middle of a treasure vault, 3 beautiful women around him, looking every bit like a rising kingpin. His gaze was cool, confident, and powerful. My time has come. AG was thrilled. Not only had he regained power from his past life, he might even become stronger than ever. Bursting with pride, he declared, now that I know this, there's no reason for me to stick around here. Later. Then he began crawling forward. But he failed to notice the crib was slightly tilted, teetering dangerously in his direction. Suddenly his eyes widened as something caught his attention. Huh? He gasped, still dazed and confused. The next thing he knew, he was tumbling face first onto the floor. Flat on the ground, he couldn't move a muscle. What? I can't move. Then, a strange noise. Ping! A nail from the crib popped loose. He heard the metallic sound echo and looked up, only to be met with a sight that made his heart jump. One of the crib's legs snapped off suddenly, causing it to tilt and wobble before finally tipping straight toward AG, who was lying on the floor, still unable to move. This is bad, he thought, paralyzed with fear. Yingyu rushed in and saw the crib about to fall on him. Her face went pale as she screamed, AG-chan. AG lay face down, straining every muscle to drag himself out of harm's way, but his body wouldn't budge. In that moment, a dark memory flashed across his mind. An eerie figure with a sneering half-smile looked down at him in contempt. Can't believe I once had to eat dog food just to survive. A cruel, bitter echo of the humiliation he once endured. He saw himself crawling on a cold, filthy floor. His clothes were torn, his body frail and bruised, his eyes empty as they stared at a red ceramic bowl marked with the word DOG, his final gift from the organization. The voice of that man echoed mockingly. Loyal mud of the organization, aren't you? AG clenched his teeth in rage. Damn it, I'm not a dog. He jolted awake from the nightmare, his face drenched in sweat. He stretched slightly, letting out a weak, groggy noise. Pushing his hands into the mattress, He slowly began to sit up, thinking, I must have blacked out. Turning his head weakly, he saw his mother sitting nearby, quietly writing in a notebook. Was it my mom who saved me? He wondered. Sitting upright, he leaned forward on the cushion and glanced behind at the tail still twitching behind him. He narrowed his eyes. But why did I pass out? Could it be that my powers are too much for this body to handle? Judging by how it felt, I probably can only sustain it for about 30 seconds. Darkness seemed to close in around him as he grit his teeth. Damn it. I need to get even stronger. So lost in thought, he didn't notice Yingyu right behind him until a faint sniffle broke the silence. Huh? Is she crying? Her hair hung messily around her face as she stared into her notebook, wiping away a tear. Eiji sat up straighter and glanced over to see what she was writing. The notebook was filled with notes and colorful sticky tabs. Then one line stood out to him, Mom's diary. I'm sorry for nearly hurting the most precious treasure in my life. Eiji paused. Most precious treasure, is that me? His heart wavered. Then he noticed a dark bruise on her shoulder. That bruise, did she get it while protecting me? He thought back to the mother in his previous life, the kind of person who would sell her own child to the organization without a second thought. The memory stung. Quietly, he reached out his tiny hand and placed it gently on her back. Yingyu felt the light touch and turned around, immediately pulling Eiji into a warm embrace. His arms folded across his chest and his face twisted in slight annoyance, but what she did made him pause. But this time, things are different. Maybe, I'll stay here a little longer. He looked down, eyes growing serious. But there's not much time. This world, it's going to change completely within 1 week. The scene shifted to outside the residential area. A construction worker was riding an elevator up to the worksite, a serious look on his face. The next monster, it's definitely going to show up nearby soon. Just then, something brushed against him and suddenly, thick green slime exploded from his nose and mouth. The goo dripped slowly to the ground, pooling and merging into a quivering mass, a slime creature. Back at home, Eiji had his head lowered, eyes shut in concentration. I need to calmly think through the next steps of my plan. Just as he was deep in thought, his mother called out cheerfully, Chan, Eiji-chan. Yingyu came pulling in something large, completely covered by a red cloth. She beamed at him, teasing, can you guess what this is? Arms still crossed, Eiji shot the thing a sidelong glance, clearly skeptical. With a dramatic yank, she pulled the cloth off, revealing a metal cage. Inside, a golden furred dog wagged its tail excitedly. Ta-da! She exclaimed. Eiji sat there frozen, completely at a loss. What? I just got a dog? From my mom? His brain scrambled. Was this supposed to be heartwarming, or terrifying? A mental image of the dog flashed in his mind, along with a creeping sense of dread. We got it from the neighbors, she said. Wait, isn't this the same aggressive mutt from next door? The dog in question stood in front of him, tongue out and tail wagging in full celebration at meeting its new owner. But Eiji was lost in a swirl of flashbacks. Can't believe I've run into this thing again, in this life. It's way too big to be a kid's playmate, isn't it? Eiji let out a long sigh. She really is forgetful sometimes. But then, a bold idea crossed his mind. Then again, this might actually work out. If I train it properly, it could be a countermeasure against future threats. He pictured himself commanding Rekin in battle, the dog transformed into a loyal war mount, leaping into battle against monsters. While he daydreamed with a smug grin, Yingyu looked on happily, completely unaware of his thoughts. He's smiling, he must really like the dog, she thought warmly. The sunlight poured through the window, filling the room with golden warmth. It was the perfect snapshot of domestic bliss. Yingyu headed back into the kitchen, leaving Eiji alone with Rekin. He began plotting. First, I need to train it, starting with feeding. Grinning confidently, he held out a sausage toward the dog. Here, eat this. I'm the one feeding you, which means I'm your master now. The clueless mutt stuck out its tongue, eyes sparkling with empty joy, staring at the sausage like it was the best thing on earth. Look at that dumb face. You get it now, right? Rekin lunged for the sausage and devoured it eagerly. That's right, chew it properly. As the dog munched away happily, Eiji saw an opening. He smugly planted his foot on the dog's head in a dominant pose. I'll train you into the ultimate war mount. Suddenly, Rekin's eyes turned blood red, fierce and intense. Snap. A loud crunch echoed through the room. With just one swat, Eiji was sent flying backward, crashing onto the floor. His face was completely covered in paw prints. He lay there dazed, as if unable to process what had just happened. Reckon turned his head away with a proud little huff. Planting one hand on the floor, AG pushed himself up and growled under his breath. Stupid mutt. Fueled by rage, he lunged at the dog, aiming straight for its smug face. He shouted in fury, determined to get payback. Meanwhile, Yingyu remained totally oblivious to the war breaking out just a few feet away. Watching the chaos with a warm smile, she cheerfully said, "Wow, you two really hit it off, huh? Bonded so fast." She turned back to her chores, humming to herself. Then suddenly she froze in mild panic. "Oh no, we're completely out of flour." While AG and the dog continued their full-on brawl, both scratched and bruised but neither backing down, Yingyu hurried around, unaware of the flying chaos erupting behind her. Just then a strange blue object shot through the air, heading right for her. But she was too focused, muttering to herself while grabbing her shopping bag. "Okay, need to go buy more flour and then." But just as AG's mom was rummaging through a drawer, muttering, "Mem, it's gotta be in here somewhere," she had no idea that a slime was creeping steadily toward her from behind. Reckon spotted the intruder and immediately turned vicious, charging forward and barking wildly. Woof. Just minutes earlier, AG had been in an all-out brawl with that very same dog. Now covered in dirt and scratches, he sat on the floor, barely able to move, and could only watch blankly as Reckon bolted away like a possessed beast. With terrifying energy, Reckon leapt over the kitchen counter, blew past the slime, and yanked on the back of Yinju's shirt, trying to alert her to the danger lurking nearby. His claws skidded across the floor, knocking over chairs and utensils, his barking relentless. Woof, woof, woof. Yinju jumped with a scream, Then suddenly she slipped and got herself wedged awkwardly inside a lower cabinet, completely unaware of what was happening outside. Huh? What's going on? She asked, bewildered. Meanwhile, Reckon was furious, his fur bristling, eyes locked on the slime. Woof. Woof. He growled, threatening it with everything he had. AG narrowed his eyes at the slime. This species is weak, but incredibly annoying. He noticed Reckon's attacks had no effect. Its liquid body makes it immune to both slashing and stabbing damage, can't deny it's tough. Reckon and the slime clashed with explosive energy, neither giving in. The dog's endless barking shook the room. Woof. In the chaos, Yingyu was still on her knees searching through cabinets. When she suddenly bumped her head, she cried out, "Ow! I hit it again." Reckon, clearly overwhelmed, backed away. His eyes were locked on the slime, rage radiating from him, but the creature didn't back down. In fact, it started trying to latch onto Reckon's body like a parasite. Sweat trickled down the dog's face. What the heck is this thing? AG watched in horror as the slime wrapped around Reckon, slowly suffocating him with its thick, jelly-like form. Damn it, it's shifting shape. This type has a known weakness: dehydration. But, is there anything useful around here? His eyes darted desperately, until they locked onto a nearby baby bottle. An idea hit him. This might work. With a sudden burst of hope, AG yanked the cap off the bottle and hurled it as hard as he could toward the slime. The powdered milk burst from the bottle in a swirling cloud, coating the creature completely. Instantly, the slime began to convulse and distort. Sharp spikes erupted from inside its body like a mace spinning wildly, as if something inside was trying to escape. A moment later, it shrank into a ball, then exploded into a flash of light, scattering droplets across the floor before collapsing into a puddle. AG smirked, breathing hard. Just as I thought, it panicked after getting rapidly dehydrated. The slime was now nothing more than a tiny, twitching blob. Without hesitation, AG grabbed a nearby basket and slammed it down over the creature, trapping it inside before it could recover. He let out a long sigh and sat on top of the basket. And that's that. Sitting proudly, he smiled to himself. Himph. As expected of me. But before AG could even finish his sentence, Yinju reached up from the floor, trying to steady herself by grabbing onto the edge of the table. Unfortunately, her hand landed right on the bowl of flour. It tipped, and so did she. With a startled ah, she slipped again and crashed back down onto the floor, flour flying everywhere. Now both Yinju and Reckon were trapped in a giant cloud of white powder, their faces caked in flour. They peeked up over the table, coughing and squinting through the suffocating mess. AG, sitting nearby, was absolutely done. Great, now there's another clumsy one to worry about. Yingyu stumbled out of the kitchen with her clothes disheveled, hair wild, and face powdered like a ghost. Muttering, she grumbled. Ugh, just my luck. I need to wash all this off. Seeing her leave, AG grinned with satisfaction. With a variety of monsters around him, each with different powers, he thought. Well, at least catching that slime turned out to be lucky. Its slime can be used as insect repellent. And if I smear it on the windows, it might even act as a shock absorber. But just as he was basking in his stroke of good fortune, completely off guard, the slime slipped out from under the overturned basket. The moment it escaped, the container he was sitting on tilted, and AG toppled off with a startled yell. What the? The slime zipped out with surprising speed, sending AG flying as it made its getaway. Before disappearing, it even paused to glare back at him. Grinding his teeth, AG shouted, "Damn it, it got away." But then, out of nowhere, Reckon. With a loud woof, the golden dog charged after the slime like a missile. AG narrowed his eyes, impressed. The dog caught up just in time to block the slime's escape route. The two locked eyes, snarling at each other like sworn enemies. Then the slime noticed something, its danger sense tingling. It turned its gaze. There was AG, slowly approaching with the basket in hand, ready to trap it again. "Oh no, you don't," he muttered under his breath. But the slime wasn't having it. With a slick squelch, it bolted once more, too fast for either of them. And just before vanishing through the open door, it had the audacity to flip them off. Both AG and Reckon stood frozen, eyes twitching with rage. The slime was gone. AG clenched his fists, fury bubbling inside as he let out a maniacal grin. It showed up on its own, then had the nerve to strut away like that. What a cocky little blob. Next time you're not getting away. Even Reckon growled in agreement. With renewed resolve, the two gave chase. But since AG was still in the body of a literal baby, he needed Reckon's help and an umbrella to push the door open. Click. The door swung open. AG gave the order, "Go after it." Reckon barked with enthusiasm, "Woof." AG swore silently to himself. "I won't let it escape again. That slime's worth too much as a bug repellent." He climbed onto Reckon's back, and the dog took off like a rocket, his long legs bounding down the stairs with ease. They burst out onto the main road, but the slime was nowhere in sight. AG muttered, "Wait a minute, since when can slimes fly?" Just as he was puzzling over that, he spotted it high above. Without hesitation he shouted, "There it is. I just need to throw some dirt or mud at it." At that exact moment, a little girl was walking along the street when something slimy dripped onto her head. Curious, she looked up. Her eyes widened in terror. The moment the slime realized it had been spotted by the little girl, it lunged at her. She screamed, "Aha!" frozen in fear. AG's eyes narrowed as he saw the danger unfold before him. His fists clenched, his thoughts raced. "Damn it, if I use my power now, this body won't be able to handle it." He bit his lip, torn between hesitation and instinct. But if that thing manages to latch onto her, this place will be drenched in blood. He could already see the horrific scene playing out in his mind. Just once in my past life was already too much. He wouldn't let that nightmare happen again. Reckon, sensing his urgency, kicked into high gear. The dog bolted forward like a bullet, carrying AG straight toward the girl. The slime loomed inches away from her. Then whoosh. AG flung open the umbrella mid-air just as Reckon shot past her, using the canopy to shield her body. His sharp, determined gaze locked onto the target. "If I can only use this power for a few seconds," he thought, voice echoing in his mind. The slime didn't back down. It slammed straight into the umbrella, aggressive and unrelenting. But AG was ready. With a roar of energy, he activated his skill from the air around him. Raw power condensed, and burst forth in the shape of a massive crimson hand. With all his might he hurled it forward, boom, slamming the phantom fist right into the slime's face. Then all ended in an instant. The slime was defeated. Its body shattered into fragments, raining down onto the ground like a torrential downpour. AG glanced up, his expression tight with focus. "I made it in time, right?" he wondered. He and Reckon turned to look at the little girl they had just saved. Their eyes met. No six eyes met. The girl's face was pale, frozen in fear. She had collapsed onto the ground and was staring directly at him, her entire body trembling. "Can she actually see me?" AG thought, uncertain. But the girl didn't say a word. She scrambled to her feet and ran away as fast as she could. Ah, she ran off, AG muttered, slightly disheartened. He watched her retreating figure, slipping into a brief moment of reflection. Well, not surprising. She looked like she'd seen a ghost, he sighed. Guess I've got cleanup duty again. What a pain. Suddenly something behind him stirred a familiar movement. A tail burst out from behind him. It was the Thaothiat tail, absorbing the remnants of the slime's power. AG turned, startled. Huh? He couldn't help but marvel at what just happened. Wait a second, this body cannot absorb two powers. In his past life, each new skill he absorbed always overwrote the previous one. Now, two different powers shimmered in his hands simultaneously. Unbelievable they're coexisting. Back then, I avoided changing skills too often. Didn't want the organization catching on. In the end, that's what killed me, but now, something had clearly changed. Of course it's because of my age. The earlier a person awakens, the stronger their potential becomes. I awakened at 10, but any child younger than me died from the monster toxins. He looked down at his tiny hands. And now I'm younger than I was back then. This kid's potential, it's limitless. AG was lost in thought when Reckon carried him all the way back home. He snapped out of it with a surprised, "Oh, we're back already?" He slid off Reckon's back and landed softly on the ground. Without wasting time, AG activated the newly absorbed power from the slime. A glowing protective barrier materialized around the building, an invisible wall designed to ward off monsters. But his strength was running low. He collapsed to the ground, exhausted, breathing heavily. Damn it, I'm drained. Teeth clenched, he glared at his small body. Before I even think about using abilities, I need to fix the fact that my base stats are trash. He lay sprawled on the floor, drenched in sweat and barely able to move. Still, a faint smirk crossed his lips. Even so, with this barrier up, monsters shouldn't come near for now. Suddenly he felt a piercing gaze. He looked up. Reckon was staring at him with a fiery look in his eyes. AG raised an eyebrow. What's with that face? Reckon bit into the back of AG's shirt and lifted him off the ground. Dangling midair, AG freaked out. Hua, hey, don't tell me you're thinking about eating me. Meanwhile, inside the house, Yingyu stepped out of the bathroom, freshly bathed, towel in hand as she dried her damp hair. Her expression was blissful and carefree. Ah, that feels so much better. She glanced over and smiled warmly. It was a heartwarming sight, AG and Reckon lying peacefully together. Reckon, completely at ease, had draped a paw over AG's small body while he slept soundly. But what she didn't see was AG's red face contorting in silent agony under the dog's weight. Ugh, too heavy, he muttered internally. Annoyed. After such an eventful morning, Reckon was passed out cold, snoring and drooling all over the place. AG, now fully awake, quietly got to work using his slime abilities. Okay, windows sealed, air vents sealed, drain pipes covered. Even if a large-scale disaster hits, this house should hold out for a while, he thought, satisfied. Suddenly, his Thaothiat tail emerged, this time with 4 distinct appendages. Finally starting to understand how this thing works, he mused. Seems like I can store up to 4 abilities at once. So far, I've only got 2, but I can only use them for about 30 seconds each time, he calculated. Sitting cross-legged in a stream of sunlight by the window, AG looked every bit like a contemplative adult. To prepare for the upcoming catastrophe, the next priority is food. In disasters, it's not the monsters that kill the most people, it's starvation from supply chain collapse. After that, it's looting and resource wars. If I stockpile enough, I can avoid conflict. Hell, I might even get people to follow me. If only I could start prepping now. Once the outbreak hits, grocery stores and markets will turn into monster nests. One infected person is all it takes, and it spreads like rats. He looked down at his tiny arms. With this body, I can't fight my way out if I get surrounded. The grim reality weighed heavily on him. Not many safe places left to scavenge from either? Is there really no way? Suddenly, a ringtone sliced through his thoughts. He turned his head sharply toward the sound coming from the table. Her phone. He reached up, fingers brushing the edge of the table, lifting himself with effort. Who's calling? His tiny hands finally grabbed the phone. Let's check, the homeowners group chat. He thought, exasperated. Seriously, she didn't even put a lock on this. Unlocking it easily, he scrolled through the messages. The chat was abuzz with gossip and panic about a virus outbreak. AG's expression slowly shifted into something far more mischievous. Eyes gleaming, he whispered to himself, time to enlighten these clueless people a little. He cracked his knuckles, chuckling darkly. Let's make an account. His fingers flew across the screen, typing furiously into the group chat, but no one seemed to take him seriously. They brushed off his warnings as paranoid rambling, dismissing him without a second thought. AG clenched his jaw, seething. Damn it, these people! His tiny fist tightened around the phone, his knuckles whitening. For a moment, it looked like he was ready to smash the device right then and there. He slumped over the table, frustrated and exhausted. If things keep going like this, the organization won't even need to step in, people will die off on their own, he muttered, rubbing his temples. Suddenly, ping, a friend request popped up on the screen. Huh. Startled, he sat up straighter, eyeing the notification suspiciously. Who is this? He wondered, but clicked accept anyway out of curiosity. Almost instantly, a message came through. He lifted the phone closer and squinted at the name. Hot. That sounds familiar. A vague shadow flashed through his memory, someone from his past life. His eyes narrowed. Wait a second, no way, Hot. From that organization. The scene suddenly shifted to a dimly lit room bathed in the neon glow of multiple computer screens. The harsh light cast long shadows over keyboards, wires and empty cans. In the center sat a young woman, legs casually propped up on the desk, swaying back and forth as she held her phone high above her head. The smirk on her lips was unmistakable. A known underground hacker, Hot had already caught wind of something unusual. Through her screen, she watched with playful intrigue. Looks like things are about to get interesting. Her eyes gleamed as the corner of her mouth curled up even more. She was lazily licking her popsicle while reading the message he just sent. Spit the plan out first. Huh? Ugh, what a pain. Without missing a beat, she casually typed back, her tone firm and confident. Here are my terms. I'll give you all the supplies you need. She fired the message off without hesitation. Food, water, armor, whatever you need. I've got it all. But info's not free. I'm selling it for 100 million yen. She kept pushing, tempting him further, but lucky you, moving supplies is a hassle for me anyway. If you promise to give me 20% of the goods, I'll give you the intel. Deal? Her outrageous demand for information made him chuckle internally. The moment he read it, he thought to himself, full of certainty and suspicion. That tone, asking for 100 million yen, throwing out numbers like a kid, there's no mistaking it. That's definitely Hot. The two of them kept messaging back and forth. He stayed composed as he replied. And why should I trust you? She poked at his curiosity with a smirk. Wanna see with your own eyes. But he didn't take the bait. Calmly he fired back. And what if I refuse to negotiate? She must have sensed his skepticism, because her tone shifted ever so slightly. Oh? Planning to make me your enemy? I just want to keep things friendly, you know. He finally gave in and agreed to her terms. Fine. Where's the location? As if she'd predicted his answer, she instantly replied. I left the info in a mailbox. In the same apartment complex where you live. AG knew she was playing games, but once you're in the game, you've got to play along. He was curious just how far she was willing to go. The organization hasn't formed yet. Hot isn't a leader yet. But that girl's dangerous, she knows how to twist both information and people. Once she locks onto someone, she'll use every trick in the book to wring out whatever she wants. Friendly, huh? The intel's just bait to reel me in. He smirked with a mischievous, defiant glint in his eyes. Fine. This time I'll be the one flipping the board. The clock struck 5 p.m. AG had just woken up, feeling refreshed and clear-headed. Did I sleep for 2 hours? My energy's probably back by now. Time to grab that intel. He tried to climb the stairs one slow step at a time. The elevator has surveillance cameras, which means I'll have to take the stairs. But after only a few steps, his small body was already starting to give out. He sighed, worried. With this body, there's no way I'll make it up. That's when he glanced over at Rekin, fast asleep. An idea hit him. Well then, he crawled over to where Rekin was snoozing and grabbed the dog's tail. Hey, wake up. But Rekin wasn't having it. Still half asleep, the dog glanced at him lazily, then, without warning, smacked AG across the face with his tail, and promptly went back to sleep. AG flew backward from the blow, his cheeks swelling red as he crashed to the floor. This damn mutt. And I thought I'd finally made some progress training it. He held his cheek, now red and sore from the slap, and started thinking of a way to wake the dog up. Wait, hang on. His eyes shifted toward the cookie jar sitting on the table. What if I used that snack to lure him? He walked over and stood right in front of Reckon, just close enough to catch the dog's attention. Opening his palm, he dangled a tasty treat in front of Reckon's nose. Though his eyes stayed closed, Reckon's nose twitched as he sniffed the air. The smell of food instantly perked him up. Excited, he popped up and slapped a paw into AG's hand like they'd struck a deal. Easy bait. You really are just a dog, so convenient. Wasting no time, AG climbed up onto his back and gave the order, let's go. Before she wakes up. The two of them arrived at the storage cabinet under the apartment building. Both stood facing forward, eyes locked on one spot, the mailbox. AG spotted a sheet of paper clipped to one of the boxes and exclaimed, there it is. But then his gaze shifted. He'd just noticed a surveillance camera pointed straight at them. There's a camera here too. His expression tightened with suspicion. That hot girl, she's probably trying to ID me through the cameras. If I show my face, she'll sell my information instantly. But hot only targets people she already knows. He took a deep breath, weighing the risk. Well then, I just need to throw her off. AG's eyes scanned the area carefully. First step, check the surroundings. He calmly closed his eyes, mentally mapping everything. Aside from the building's security cams, there are 1, 2, 3 hidden cameras she must have planted herself. After confirming the full surveillance coverage, he let out a sly, confident grin. She really thinks she can ID me with just that. Meanwhile, on the other side of the screen, Hot was lounging back in her chair, grinning smugly. She was practically salivating over her new prey. Alright then, who's the catch this time? Her phone buzzed. Curious, she checked the notification, then her eyes widened. It was a message from him. Got the info. She stared at the screen in disbelief. Then shouted, what? Eyes darting back to the surveillance feed, she seethed. Since when? The camera feed just shows a dog. What she didn't know was that AG had deliberately placed himself in a camera blind spot, perfectly hidden behind Reckon. This spot's invisible to all cameras, he thought smugly. Then he glanced upward and noticed a card tucked above. Let's stash the smartphone here, with this guy. The two of them were tucked into the corner of the stairwell. AG held the phone in his hand, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Suddenly, a voice message played from the device. Who are you? Hearing her voice, he smirked and shot back with a cheeky response. Give me 100 million yen, and I'll tell you. The moment she read that, her face twisted with frustration. Her cold, hateful glare sharpened as she realized she was dealing with a tough opponent. This guy, he's seriously pissing me off. She slammed the phone down onto the table and screamed in rage, don't mess with me. I'll make you regret it. Furiously, she began hammering away at her keyboard. Spider, it's your turn. Search the entire building. Now. Her voice trembled with fury as she continued. Time to show you the power of this thing. I paid 30 million yen for it. Built-in cameras, dustproof, waterproof, low-temp resistant, anti-magnetic, high-speed movement, and even electrical attacks. She was dead set on hunting him down for mocking her. The mechanical spider immediately sprang into action, heading straight toward AG and Reckon. But before it could get far, AG's mom, completely unaware, stepped right on it with a loud splat, knocking it out cold. Back on the other end, Hot's eyes widened in pure disbelief. Her jaw dropped open as she stared at the screen. 30 million yen. She screamed, voice shaking. Meanwhile, AG's mom was coming downstairs when she spotted both of them hiding in the stairwell. She paused, then let out a small surprised "oh." With a gentle smile, she called out sweetly, "A-chan, what are you doing down there?" Hearing her voice, AG froze. He slowly looked up at her, his entire body trembling with fear. His jaw clenched as he tried to suppress the panic rising inside. The hacker girl sat curled up on her chair, hugging her knees, sobbing and whining, "My spider." Suddenly, a voice echoed from somewhere, startling her. "What are you doing?" She whipped her head around, frowning in confusion. But that spider had a built-in comms function. Then she squinted suspiciously. "Wait, you can talk." Snapping out of her shock, she quickly reached for her headset on the desk, pulled the mic to her lips, and barked with a fierce glare, "Hey, don't get cocky just because you pulled off one cheap trick, got it? I heard your voice loud and clear." In her mind, she muttered darkly, "I'll make you pay for this," slowly. Sweat beading on her forehead, She began threatening through the mic. I could leak every single message. All your embarrassing secrets, dump it all online, you know that. Still, she tried to maintain her bravado, taunting, say something, huh? Then, that same voice came through again, calm and teasing, wearing something that skimpy. Careful, you'll catch a cold. She froze, face draining of color. Sweat poured down her back as she trembled. He's not even listening to me. Frustrated and flustered, she slammed down the power switch, gritting her teeth. Damn it, her hands clenched in frustration. Her thoughts raced. I have no idea who this guy is. Who the hell are you? Meanwhile, elsewhere, Yinju glanced over her shoulder, eyebrows furrowed as she scolded gently, Ai-chan, it's dangerous to be over there, you know? From somewhere nearby, a broken device crackled with static, spitting out a strange robotic voice input and output usable. Estimated success rate, 46% unlikely. A message then flashed on screen, I'll give you the intel for free. Take the supplies too. AG read the message, blinking in disbelief. She's backing off. Still skeptical, he wondered to himself, why give in so easily? Later, Yingyu stood outside on the apartment's balcony, her figure silhouetted by the sunlight. From inside, AG watched her quietly and muttered, she probably thought it was just a stray dog that opened the door, but I know better. He let out a long sigh and continued thinking, and she must assume I just sleepwalked my way out. He turned and narrowed his eyes, speaking softly, that means I can't use the dog anymore. He looked down at Rekin, tied up and lying on his back in the middle of the floor, his eyes brimming with tears. AG clenched his fist, making a silent vow, don't worry, I'll come back for you. Resuming his train of thought, he reflected, according to Hot, a warehouse-style supermarket is about to open, so she's probably handing over some big batch of supplies she stole from others. Huh? Arms crossed, he looked up and mumbled to himself, coming from Hot. That's surprisingly generous. If I'm going to stock up on essentials, I'd better act fast. AG glanced down at the flyer on the table and thought to himself, I left that leaflet out, but she still hasn't noticed it. He clenched his fists inwardly, I need to do something. Then he hesitated for a moment. But I can't exactly tell her the apocalypse is coming. Just then, Yingyu walked into the room and casually said, there's only enough formula left for 5 more days. Sitting on the chair, AG's ears perked up immediately. Hearing that, a mischievous grin slowly formed on his face. This is it, my chance. He slowly reached out and knocked over the can of formula on the table. Yingyu turned around at the noise, but when she saw him curled up peacefully asleep, she smiled softly. Oh, already asleep. Good thing Ai-chan didn't wake up. Suddenly, her gaze dropped. She blinked, then murmured, a supermarket flyer? She picked it up and read aloud. A new market opened nearby. I'll check it out when I get the chance. From his stroller, AG beamed silently. Success. Soon after, the two were out, with Yinju pushing the stroller down the street. She looked around and sighed in delight. What a beautiful day. AG, on the other hand, looked far less enthusiastic. Sitting in the stroller with a sour face, he sulked seriously. A boy in this outfit? No way, that's okay. But Yinju, oblivious to his thoughts, just kept smiling cheerfully, clearly enjoying herself. Back at home, Rekin had been left in charge. In front of him sat a massive bowl filled to the brim with food. His assignment for the day was to stay behind and guard the house. Meanwhile, AG and Yinyu were just approaching the front gate of the building, when suddenly a voice called out, wait up. Startled, Yinju turned. It was the security guard, and he looked visibly worried as he rushed over. Where are you going? There's a viral outbreak going around. You should really stay inside. Yinyu hesitated, even though she had a legitimate reason, and replied unsurely, I just need to get some more formula for the baby. But the guard didn't budge. Don't cause unnecessary trouble for the government. From the stroller, AG narrowed his eyes. Government, huh? Not like they'll last much longer anyway. The man pointed behind him and spoke with authority, hands on his hips. I'm just passing on the message. Please head back home. He continued, trying to reason with her, wait until things settle down before going out again. But before he could finish, something suddenly grabbed his head. It was a brutal-looking metal monster. It lifted the man off the ground effortlessly. A guttural shriek followed Gaia. And in the next moment, blood sprayed violently through the air. The guard was already lifeless. Yinju stood frozen, unable to process what she was seeing. AG too stiffened in his seat, visibly shaken. Blood from the guard continued to pool and spread across the pavement. It didn't seem satisfied yet it reached out its hand and muttered, "Protein." Seeing that, AG broke into a cold sweat. This is bad. That thing's the type that can rapidly reproduce and has insane strength, no obvious weaknesses. The metal monster dropped the guard's lifeless body without hesitation. At the same time, AG came to a firm conclusion: if I don't use my power now, this woman is going to die. There's no time to hesitate. He was still in the middle of thinking when suddenly, his entire body was lifted into the air. Yingyu had scooped him up into her arms and was now clutching him tightly, panic in her voice as she shouted, "Ai-chan, hold on to me." AG, sweating nervously, thought, she's going to try and run. But then he added grimly, running won't work. It's useless. By then, the metal creature had already stepped in front of the two of them. Yingjiu looked up in terror, her arms still wrapped protectively around AG. Meanwhile, he stared straight at the creature, assessing it silently. That thing's a whole different class. It's way faster than any human. Suddenly, AG's eyes darted to something in the distance. He tensed up, thinking, that fire extinguisher. Without a moment's delay, he narrowed his eyes, locking onto the canisters. If I break those open, at that instant, a concentrated laser beam fired straight from his eyes, striking the fire extinguishers. A loud boom echoed through the area, followed by thick clouds of smoke billowing out. The metal monster stopped in its tracks, startled by the blast, but before it could react, it quickly turned its head. That was AG's chance. Without hesitation, he launched a powerful kick right into its face. The creature took the full impact and was sent flying, slamming hard into a nearby car. AG stared at the motionless body and calculated to himself, until the smoke clears, I've got about 30 seconds. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, his irises had turned blood red. With a sharp sideways glance at the monster, he made his final resolve: in those 30 seconds, I'll finish this. Suddenly, AG glanced back at Yingyu, who was still unconscious with her eyes shut tight. He frowned and thought, the real question is, can I take this thing down before she wakes up? Then the earlier scene replayed in his mind, and he picked up the thread of his thoughts. She passed out from the shock earlier, but I'm running out of time. AG turned his gaze back to the metal monster standing before him, his expression tense. Monsters that evolve over time usually have a core located in their head. If I land a clean hit there, one strike should be enough. He looked up but hesitated. But the iron beast still loomed in front of him, completely unscathed. AG gritted his teeth and narrowed his eyes. One more hit. I'll finish it with the next one. The creature bared its razor-sharp fangs, and AG muttered internally, this time there's no shortcut. Then it raised its arm, preparing to strike. AG's eyes widened. Beads of sweat down his cheek. It's coming. The monster launched its attack. With unwavering resolve, AG threw out his hand. Charge. In that instant, red threads shot out from all 5 of his fingers. Though they looked like nothing more than thread, they carried deadly force. The strands lashed out furiously, cutting across the creature's body over and over. As soon as the assault ended, AG leapt back to gain distance, his eyes burning with determination. He glanced at the wounds left on the monster's body and thought with a scowl, damn, I was a little off, but the one who's gonna win. His lips curled into a confident smirk. Is me. He immediately charged forward. At the same time, the metal beast raised its massive fist. AG ducked low and slid across the ground to dodge. In mid-movement, he flicked his fingers, hooking his threads onto the spikes protruding from its back, and used them to swing through the air. Landing smoothly, he yanked the threads hard, causing one of the monster's arms to tear open. Blood spurted out. AG noted calmly, it's too big. Aiming for a kid makes it harder to land a solid hit. The monster, undeterred, swung its other arm in retaliation. But AG wasn't backing down. He launched himself upward, analyzing its moves as he rose. It still isn't going all out yet. The beast slammed its fist into the ground, causing it to explode into chunks of rubble. AG narrowly dodged the strike, whipping his head back to check its movements. This is just like trying to swat a mouse. Blood continued to stream down the metal monster's body as AG locked eyes with it, thinking to himself, all the experience I've built up until now, at least in this form, it's finally coming in handy. He narrowed his eyes, a grin forming at the corners of his mouth as he silently encouraged himself. You're wearing down, huh? Just one more solid hit should do it. At the same time, he flicked a thread off to the side, readying his next move. Suddenly the iron beast reached out and grabbed a car door. AG's eyes widened in alarm. What the? He muttered internally as the monster hurled the heavy door straight at him. The steel door slammed into AG's forehead, leaving a noticeable mark. Eyes wide and sweat pouring down his face, he gasped internally. What the hell? AG jumped up onto the nearby building, cursing under his breath. Damn it, he glared downward, clenching his teeth. If it keeps attacking like that, I won't be able to get close. What if I try an ambush instead? But there's no way to distract it, and I'm almost out of time. He continued to run calculations in his head. Eventually he came to a conclusion. There's no choice left, I have to retreat. But just then, something made him freeze. He turned around with a jolt. It was Yingyu. Her face filled with worry as she called out. Ah, Ai-chan. AG's heart skipped a beat. She's awake, he thought, stunned. Yingyu looked around in confusion. Where are we? She asked. Suddenly, her eyes widened in horror. Right in front of her stood the massive iron monster, still towering and menacing. As the realization hit, her body trembled. No way, she stammered. She lowered her head, as if preparing to act. AG, watching from above, panicked. What the hell is she doing? He shouted internally, clutching his head in fear. She can't fight that thing, she'll be killed. But Yingyu shifted her foot forward and shouted at the beast. Give me back that child right now. With that, she raised something and fired it at the metal monster. AG's jaw dropped when he saw what she was holding. A taser. Then he clenched his teeth. Whatever, it's enough. Soaring high into the air, AG took a breath and thought. That's more than enough to distract it. Then he declared silently, now's the time. Down below, the metal monster began to react. It swung its arm forcefully in Yingyu's direction, striking her hard. Ah! She cried out as she was thrown to the ground. At the same moment, AG unleashed a barrage of red threads, spinning them into a whirling vortex as he dove straight down from above. Looking down at his target, he growled to himself, time to take out the trash. The iron monster finally realized the danger it was in and looked up in panic, but it was too late. AG's attack had already pierced straight through its face. The beast collapsed in a heap, blood spilling out and splattering the ground around it. AG walked over to where Yingyu was lying. Looking down at her, he thought to himself, if it weren't for her, I'd be dead right now. I can't believe she risked her life to save me. Looks like I still have a long way to go. As soon as those words crossed his mind, AG collapsed to the ground beside her. His tiny hand gently fell into the palm of Yingyu's. The scene shifted. Sometime later, AG was lying down, bandaged up and recovering. Slowly, his eyes fluttered open. Just then, a man's voice spoke up as he removed AG's diaper. The little guy's awake. AG's eyes shot open in shock as he stared at the unfamiliar man. Who the hell is this guy? He thought, panicking. The man poked him casually. AG, furious, peed straight into the man's face and screamed internally, get away from me, you perv. At that moment Yingyu came rushing in, clearly flustered, and stammered out, I'm so sorry. The man casually wiped his face with a handkerchief, and responded cheerfully, it's fine. Looks like I scared the little guy a bit. Then he turned toward Yingyu with a warm smile. So, is he getting along well with the dog? She nodded and answered with a smile. Yes. Meanwhile, AG puffed out his cheeks and looked up suspiciously. Is this guy the dog's previous owner? The man added, thanks for taking care of him. Yingyu gently placed AG back into the stroller and replied, it's nothing. AG furrowed his brows, staring up at her, confused. She saw that monster earlier, so how is she acting like nothing even happened? Suddenly he noticed something and blinked. Huh? He reached out and touched her hair. Her hair's wet. That triggered a memory in his mind. She was crying. Again? Just then, the man turned and said with a friendly tone, Ms. Ling, we're heading out to stock up on supplies. Get ready. Yingyu nodded, smiling. All right. AG overheard and raised an eyebrow. Stocking up on supplies. He crossed his arms and started thinking seriously. Pooling resources with everyone, honestly, not a bad plan. Then something clicked in his head. He shot his eyes open in realization. Oh right. He quietly climbed out of the stroller and whispered to himself, I still haven't retrieved the core from that monster. Looking ahead, AG's eyes widened. There it is. Among the ashes of the fallen iron monster, Something faintly glowing caught his eye. He hurried over, crawled toward it, and quickly scooped it up. Got it. A sly grin formed on his face as he whispered proudly, now that unbreakable trait is flowing through my veins. Imagining the new power he had just absorbed, AG smirked to himself. Not bad. I can use this as a shield now. Suddenly a voice interrupted. What was that? AG immediately turned to look. The man was standing over the dead security guard, talking to someone on the phone. You're saying that woman and her kid are just dead weight? AG crouched behind a wrecked car, eavesdropping. The man took a drag from his cigarette and chuckled, squinting into the distance. Idiots. That's exactly why we brought them, just in case something goes wrong. Then, without a hint of remorse, he bent down and rummaged through the security guard's belongings, muttering coldly, we can use them as bait. That makes them useful enough, right? AG scowled, eyes narrowed. You lunatic. Seriously. Who the hell leaves a dog in charge of a baby? The man casually flipped through the dead man's wallet, counting the cash. Grab another car. We're heading out to scavenge more. Suddenly, a shard of glass dropped from the broken car window and landed right behind AG. He whipped around and shouted, Who's there? At the same time he turned his head, gritting his teeth in frustration. Damn it, broken glass. Then, a chilling voice echoed behind him. Well, look who we have here. The man's face darkened as he looked down at AG. It's you, huh? AG flinched. There was something dangerous in that gaze. The man bent down and gently patted AG's head. How'd a little guy like you end up all the way back here? Huh? Then he raised his phone to his ear and, with a crooked smile, said to the person on the other end, Damn, maybe he overheard something. But who cares, he's just a kid. Killing him now wouldn't change a thing. AG's eyes widened in disbelief. What? This guy's completely insane. Scene shifts. Yinyu is buckling AG into his car seat, and AG frowns, clicking his tongue in annoyance. The man turned from the driver's seat. Alright, let's get going. AG glanced at him sideways, his thoughts full of suspicion. Wait. This guy's the driver. If only I could use my powers right now, I'd crush him flat and show him who's really in charge. AG clearly didn't trust the man one bit. The man cheerfully added, Oh, and I brought some snacks, help yourselves. Kassen handed a bag of goodies to Yinyu, who accepted it with a polite smile. Thanks a lot. AG, meanwhile, wrinkled his nose. Hold on a sec, none of them watched the footage about the monsters. How are they still going out like it's no big deal? As the man stuck his hand out the truck window and waved goodbye to someone, the other person responded with an okay gesture. And then, the pickup truck sped off. AG looked out the window and narrowed his eyes. I think I get it now. This is another kind of self-defense. Even if they've seen the monsters, or the bodies, not everyone can accept that the world is ending. There were still quite a few cars on the road. He continued thinking. All they can do is pretend everything's normal, and bury their fear deep inside. The truck rumbled along when someone spoke up, Could I get a sandwich? Yinyu turned and smiled. Sure, I'll grab one for you. AG, unbothered, picked his nose. Denku peeked over his shoulder and chimed in, And I'll take a hot dog, please. Yinyu placed the box of snacks next to AG, opened the lid, and replied, Here you go. AG looked down at the food with a mischievous grin, and on his fingertip, glistening proudly, was a fresh booger. Yinju handed the food to Denku, who accepted it politely and said, Thanks. Kassen, sitting nearby, casually spoke up. Miss Ling, it must be tough raising a child all by yourself, huh? She folded her arms and squinted, her voice tinged with curiosity. I mean, you're still young and beautiful. And you don't exactly look like someone with a steady job. Isn't it dangerous to be out and about right now? Yinju nodded slightly and answered honestly, I've thought about just staying home, but she let out a weary sigh. Lately, if I leave him alone even for a second, he starts doing all kinds of ridiculous things. I really had to think it over before deciding to bring him with me. From his seat, AG narrowed his eyes in protest, screaming internally, Hey, that's enough already, don't say anything else. Then the man chuckled and chimed in, Still, Miss Ling's pretty handy in a fight. Without a second thought, he took a bite of the snack which, unbeknownst to him, had AG's booger tucked inside, and added cheerfully, Didn't she take down that monster with just a stun gun? And now we've even got a dog on our side. In the back of the truck, Rekin was resting in the cargo space. Yinyu gave an awkward smile and confessed, To be honest, I don't really remember much of what happened. AG sighed. And thought in disbelief useful? Come on, you've got to be kidding me. The man chomped into the booger-laced snack again and casually remarked. Whatever. There probably aren't any monsters around here anyway. But then he suddenly froze, eyes narrowing as something caught his attention. Up ahead, a girl appeared running for her life. A rusty piece of metal was flung through the air, crashing down nearby. A massive green hand stretched toward her. It belonged to a monstrous grasshopper creature. And it wasn't alone. An entire swarm of howling monsters followed closely behind, their screeches piercing the air. The girl screamed and sobbed in pure terror as she fled. Everyone in the truck witnessed the horrifying scene unfold in stunned silence. Their expressions twisted in shock and dread. He gripped the steering wheel tightly and shouted, "Hold on!" As his foot slammed on the brakes. The truck screeched as it spun around in a sharp U-turn. None of them dared to get out and help the terrified girl. No one said a word as the vehicle sped off in the opposite direction. From the back, Reckon barked wildly, "Woof! Woof!" Behind them, the girl was caught by the monsters. Her blood-curdling scream rang out. "Ah! Somebody help me!" Inside the truck, Yinju panted heavily, her body trembling with exhaustion. Beside her, AG frowned and wiped the sweat off his brow. God, what a freaking mess today turned out to be, he thought bitterly. Beads of sweat slid down his face as he stared forward. We're surrounded, sure enough. More grasshopper-like monsters appeared on the road ahead, blocking their path. AG's eyes narrowed as he observed their grotesque forms. Those buried heads and those sting marks, the one controlling them is definitely some kind of biomechanical parasite. He kept analyzing. These parasitic controllers infect humans and turn them into machines. Individually they're weak. But in swarms, they're terrifying. His expression turned grim. They multiply endlessly. I have to get out of here fast. The driver cursed aloud. Shit. We're really boxed in now. He stared ahead, panic starting to creep into his voice. If they swarm us, forget the truck, these windows won't hold. AG looked outside, heart pounding. He's right, it can happen. If I don't drive them off, I won't even get the chance to act. He clenched his jaw. And that power of mine only lasts 30 seconds. If I waste it here, we're screwed. His eyes darted around inside the truck. Isn't there anyone here who can fight? Just then, Cassin turned her head toward the window outside. The girl from earlier had somehow caught up, her hand outstretched in desperation. Please help me, she screamed. Cassin's eyes widened in horror. What are you all waiting for? We have to save her, she shouted. AG's fist clenched. What did she just say? She wants to go out there and rescue a stranger. He thought, seething. He scowled as Cassin pressed Denku to act. She's dead weight, AG muttered in his mind. Keeping her around won't help anyone, we'd be better off cutting her loose. Still, the girl's cries for help echoed from outside, growing more desperate. Minoru, silent until now, calmly raised a hand. No, it's already too late, he said. Cassin flinched slightly, startled by his quiet certainty. Minoru closed his eyes for a brief moment, then continued. She's already been stung. The mark's the same as the ones on those monsters' necks. The old man coughed a few times, his breathing ragged. From the backseat, AG silently sized him up. This guy's eyes are sharp, definitely ex-military. But he's way past his prime. Probably not fit for a fight. Maybe he can carry supplies at best. The driver narrowed his eyes on the road and spoke up, so what now? We charged straight in. Then he turned back slightly with a sly grin. If we're gonna dive in, we'd better take out those monsters first, before they wipe us all out. AG broke out in a nervous sweat, grinding his teeth. What the hell? Is he seriously suggesting we kill them all? He stared at the man's smug expression. Clearly annoyed. Useless when it matters. And I bet the guy behind him isn't any better. Suddenly, Denkuo held up a long baguette and, shaking with fear, shouted, I'll do it. AG glanced at him, eyebrows raised. That weakling. What if he snaps and goes berserk or something? Despite trembling like a leaf, Denku stammered, I'll fight them. I'm not afraid. AG immediately squinted in disbelief. Nope. Definitely not reliable either, sweat streamed down his face. Don't tell me there's really no one I can count on. Just then, Yinyu dug through her bag and declared, Wait. I'll grab my gun. AG turned to look at her, stunned. She's going out there. At that moment the car door creaked open, and Denku hesitantly spoke. So, I guess I don't have to go anymore, right? Eiji rolled his eyes in frustration. Oh, for crying out loud. Denku let out a soft chuckle. I'll be counting on you. Suddenly, something pierced straight through his chest. Kassen, who was sitting beside him, gasped in horror. Denku's eyes went wide. He looked at her confused, not yet realizing what had happened, until he looked down. Blood gushed from his chest. His eyes followed the blade that had impaled him. A second later he was violently thrown out of the vehicle by some unknown force. Then a monstrous claw slammed down onto the floor of the truck. Kassen turned, frozen in terror as she stared at the thing climbing in. It was the lead parasite, the main creature. No one knew when it had gotten in, or how long it had been hiding there. Its needle-like limb struck again right through Kassen's chest. She too was flung from the vehicle like a rag doll. The lead monster slowly turned its gaze toward the back seat. There, Eiji clung tightly to Yingyu's dress. His eyes trembled. So this is the core body. Sweat poured down his face. Where the hell had it been hiding all this time, you sly bastard? Slowly, Eiji shifted his stance. Looks like there's no other choice now, it's time to fight. At that very moment, the creature's sharp needle was aimed directly at Yingju. Eiji's heart dropped as he screamed internally, shit. But by some stroke of luck, the strike veered just slightly off course. It missed. Both of them froze in shock, stunned by the near-death moment. The lead monster retracted its stinger with a hiss. Suddenly, from the back of the vehicle, Minoru lunged forward. Without hesitation, he drove a weapon deep into the monster's neck. Blood sprayed everywhere. His eyes narrowed, and his voice was filled with icy fury. So you're the boss of these bastards, huh? Eiji's eyes widened in disbelief. What the? The creature snarled, its focus now locked on the old soldier. In a flash, it whipped its stinger toward Minoru. But the old man caught it mid-air. His grip tightened. Without flinching, he twisted hard. Crack. The monster let out a horrific scream of pain. Eiji, still in shock, watched with wide eyes. This old guy, he's taking it down with his bare hands. Minoru didn't stop. He clamped down on the monster's throat, relentless. The creature flailed and screeched as the old soldier's eyes burned with cold determination. Then, with one final wrench, Minoru ripped the stinger out of the creature's body and hurled it out of the truck. Despite having taken the lives of 2 others, the lead monster met its brutal end at the hands of a retired soldier. Minoru exhaled sharply, looking down at the body. Damn, I really am getting old. Eiji, still staring, was awestruck. He's insanely strong. But then his expression shifted. His eyes flicked to the monster's corpse and he froze. Wait, this isn't over yet. Eiji glanced at Minoru and muttered under his breath. I don't know who this old guy is. But his eyes shifted toward the body of the insectoid beast. A stab to the heart isn't enough to kill one of these insect-controlling bastards. Right on cue, the creature began to stir, rising again. Eiji grit his teeth in frustration. If I can't speak properly, then I've got no choice but to communicate like this. Suddenly he let out a piercing wail, startling both Minoru and Yingyu. What the? The old man snapped, spinning around. At that exact moment, the monster lashed out with its stinger. Luckily, the surprise attack missed Minoru by inches and slammed into the seat behind him instead. Minoru glanced at the damage, then smirked and said confidently, back in the Special Forces, I saw things like this. An enemy that doesn't die just from a heart strike. Eiji's eyes widened in shock. So he really was in the Special Forces. Minoru reached into his coat, grabbing something just as the vehicle shook violently. With one swift motion, he stabbed the creature again. Blood erupted from the wound. He grabbed the beast by the head. Just as I thought, you're not dead yet. His eyes narrowed. In that case, with a savage yell, Minoru drove his knee upward and began tearing the creature apart, piece by bloody piece. Eiji winced as blood splattered everywhere. Inside, he marveled. With reflexes that sharp, and that level of combat experience, I should have realized it sooner. This guy's military. As he watched Minoru's battle-hardened back, regret started creeping in. In my past life, back when I was nothing but a dog working for the organization, the military had already collapsed. But there were rumors. After the government crumbled, the military became humanity's final shield and the organization's worst enemy. And within that military, the Special Forces were the core. I heard they possessed unique combat skills, A slight grin formed on EG's face. Well then, looks like we can finally get to the supermarket. Just then, Yingyu offered hesitantly, maybe we should go home instead. Minoru scratched his chin and thought. If we head back now, something's bound to happen. Let's keep moving for now. AG looked at him, calculating. Now then, how do I get this guy on my side? Maybe forge some fake orders from the military, or blackmail him with classified info from HOT. Or maybe just cling to him and force him to protect me. The gears in AG's head spun with increasingly shady ideas. Suddenly, Minoru reached out and ruffled AG's hair. Startled, AG blinked. Huh? Minoru gave him a warm, fatherly smile. Miss Ling, please stay close behind me with the child. That way I can protect both of you as best I can. Yingyu blushed and nodded quickly. Why yes. I promise I won't be a burden. Minoru scratched the back of his head and chuckled nervously. But please don't expect too much from an old man like me. Yingyu smiled gratefully. Thank you for earlier. Minoru turned toward AG, his expression softening. Don't thank me. If this little one hadn't cried out when he did, I'd probably be dead right now. The dumber someone is, the more obsessed they are with demanding benefits. The moment AG heard that, his temper flared. You bastard, who the hell are you calling dumb? Yingyu reached over to buckle his seatbelt, while AG grumbled internally. That personality of his is gonna get him killed one day. He knows that, right? Still, I guess I owe him one this time. By now, the sun had dipped low in the sky. They finally arrived at the supermarket. Minoru tilted his head and said, doors locked. Closed today? Yingyu picked up a nearby flyer and frowned. But it says right here they're open today. AG narrowed his eyes, scowling. HOT's a top-tier hacker. I bet she messed with the system to make the store auto-lock itself. Just then, the shutter suddenly began to rise. Yingyu's eyes widened. Oh, it's opening. The man next to them held up his phone with a small smirk. I had a friend open it for us. AG puffed his cheeks, narrowing his eyes in suspicion. He pulled a small device from his pocket and looked at it. A message from HOT lit up the screen. No way, he thought, staring in disbelief. Is that guy connected to HOT? Unbelievable. AG glared at the man's smug expression, visibly annoyed. A short while later he sat sulking in a shopping cart while Yingyu pushed him forward. Ugh, this sucks, but whatever, he sighed internally. I guess this is fate. Wow, this place is huge. Yingyu exclaimed. AG looked up and exhaled in relief. No security cameras. Good, I don't have to worry about my identity being exposed. Then, something caught his eye. He turned toward Minoru with a stunned expression. Wait a sec, that old man, did he really bring those weapons in here? Of course he did. Guess he really is ex-special forces. AG stared in awe at the heavy-duty gear Minoru had with him. He glanced around. But, where's that crazy guy? Yingyu, still pushing the cart, looked around too. There's no staff anywhere, how are we supposed to check out? Suddenly someone clapped loudly nearby. The man from before grinned. Don't worry about it. All of this, he gestured to the mountain of boxes stacked beside him, has already been bought out by our organization. Out of nowhere, Rekin barked loudly at the man. Woof. 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 The guy snapped, clearly annoyed. Shut up, you noisy mutt. He slammed his hand onto a stack of boxes, voice dropping into a low, menacing tone. I thought breaking in here would be a real challenge. That's why I used all of you, but now? You're all worthless to me. AG stared at him, confused. Wait, what? Then he spotted the emblem on the man's hand, eyes widening. That mark, he's with the organization. Instantly, AG grew tense and wary. The man turned toward them, flashing a crooked grin. From this point on, all the supplies in this store are now the private property of the Eastern Union. No one is allowed to oppose that. Got it? Especially you, old man. Don't even think about doing anything stupid. As he spoke, he pulled a handgun from behind his back. AG's jaw dropped. The Eastern Union? That's the predecessor to the organization, the same group that enforced the Purge Initiative. They were committing crimes even before the Great Calamity happened, secretly stockpiling resources the moment they sensed disaster was coming. He broke into a nervous sweat. So that uneasy feeling I had earlier, this is why. That smug tone of his, it's just like him, whatever. AG clenched his teeth, glaring at the man with rage in his eyes. Whether he's that guy or not, he's dead either way. Meanwhile, Minoru glanced around, thinking grimly we've been surrounded. Played from the very beginning. He muttered under his breath. Eastern Union. Ha. Then reached for a nearby shovel and thought, if that's the case, with sharp resolve, Minoru raised the shovel high. I need to take out the leader first. Take this. He roared as he hurled the shovel past Yinyu with all his might. The man's eyes widened in shock as the shovel slammed into an electric panel on the wall, sparks flying. You bastard, are you trying to get yourself killed? He shouted. But Minoru didn't even flinch. Instead, he yelled, you too, get out of here. Now. A series of deafening explosions suddenly erupted throughout the store. Minoru turned to glance at the man again and paused. Why does he still look so calm? The guy gave a smug, almost playful smile. Minoru's heart sank. This is bad. The man raised a remote control and casually flipped the switch. And just like that, all the crates around them detonated in synchronized blasts. Minoru's eyes widened in horror, and without hesitation, he tossed his heavy weapons bag aside, not caring if he got injured in the process. Minoru pushed himself up off the floor, trying to sit upright. But he froze when he felt the cold barrel of a gun press against his forehead. The man grinned wickedly and said, I can't let a former soldier like you walk away. Make one move, and you'll be meeting your ancestors. His finger slowly began to squeeze the trigger. Suddenly a loud voice cut through the tension. Don't move. Another gun appeared this time, aimed right at him. It was Yinju. Her hands were trembling, sweat trickling down her face. But she stood her ground and shouted, Move, and I'll shoot. Why are you doing this? The man turned toward her, surprised. Then he smirked and asked, Are you seriously asking me that? Yinju's voice shook, but she replied with conviction, I'm completely serious. His smile twisted into a sneer. If you shoot me, can you really say your hands are clean? She blinked, confused. We were just supposed to share supplies, weren't we? He sighed, almost exasperated. You're adorably naive. Let me guess, you think you're in charge now, huh? He shook his head, still smiling. You want to know why I gave you that dog? His eyes narrowed, voice darkening as he began to tell the story. That day, when I came to collect a debt, the homeowner was already dead. In the flashback, he stood over a body smoking casually. So they really kicked the bucket, huh? Guess there's no one to play with today. Returning to the present, he continued. I was just about to recondition the dog when I ran into you. In the memory, he nudged the dog forward with a grin. Reckon looks like I'm your opponent today. That's when Yinyu suddenly appeared, all excited and cheerful. Hua. A dog. He was visibly startled. Watching her, he muttered to himself, a woman and a child, perfect. His face twisted into a sly grin, as if he'd just come up with the perfect little game. Back in the present, he chuckled, then looked at Yinju with mock admiration. Raising a kid on your own and adopting a huge dog. And still managing to survive. You really are something. Yinyu stared at him, horrified. Eiji, on the other hand, was grinding his teeth in fury. Then the man continued. As for the food, his expression turned serious. There's clearly not enough to go around. With that, he confidently raised his gun and fired a shot. Members of the Donglian syndicate suddenly burst through the warehouse doors. It was clear they were in a rush, hot on Yingyu's trail. The once quiet storage area was now packed with people, yet the room fell into an eerie silence. One of the gang members raised his gun and pointed it straight at her, sneering, You've got no sense, and even less self-awareness. Weaklings like you, he let out a scoff, overflowing with disdain. Or just pathetic. Eiji, sitting nearby, clenched his fists, visibly angry. So weak people are just meant to suffer, huh? Rage boiled inside him. The scene briefly cut to a prison where a guard mocked a cowering inmate while handing out food. Huh? A rat like you wants to eat? Seriously? Tears streamed down the inmate's face, each drop a reflection of their pain and resentment toward a world that had long abandoned them. Back in the warehouse, Reckon suddenly leapt forward. The loyal dog had made up its mind. Despite the danger, it charged through the crowd, barking furiously, ready to protect Eiji's mother. Gun barrels followed its every move, but Reckon didn't care. It barked louder, determined to draw attention away from her. Meanwhile, Eiji, still sitting in the supermarket cart, casually tossed a slime-like blob out of the cart. Gross. By coincidence or fate, that slime smacked right into the light switch panel, causing a sudden short circuit. The room was plunged into darkness. What the hell? I can't see a damn thing. Someone turn the lights back on. One of the gang members shouted in panic. Still, the man with the gun kept it raised, refusing to lower his weapon despite his allies' shouts. Don't shoot. Stop. At that moment, AG's body began to glow faintly with a strange radiant energy. With lightning speed, he launched a devastating kick at the syndicate member, his message clear: never underestimate the weak. The man hadn't even realized what hit him. Disoriented by the blackout, he had no time to react before the next strike came. Despite the chaos, the Donglian thugs weren't panicking. Guns cocked, fingers on triggers, they were ready to fire at any moment. Suddenly, AG was caught off guard. Minoru had appeared out of nowhere, striking down one of the attackers with ease. Their eyes met. Both froze. AG's blood ran cold. Shit. He saw me. He instinctively turned to flee, his mind racing. This is bad. How the hell do I explain this? As he imagined a bullet flying toward him, visions flashed in his mind of what would come if the old soldier truly saw him for what he was. If he's military, he'll think I'm some kind of monster. And if they figure out I have enhanced abilities, they'll take me away, lock me up, turn me into a lab rat. Minoru hit the brakes just in time. Even in total darkness, his instincts as a veteran never failed him. He looked directly at AG just once and instantly noticed something wasn't right. That child, he muttered under his breath. Is he a monster? AG was in complete panic. As he sprinted through the darkened warehouse, he couldn't help but glance over his shoulder to gauge Minoru's reaction. The old soldier wasn't far behind. Despite their age difference, he was surprisingly fast, but AG's speed still gave him the edge. Just as I thought, Minoru muttered, his suspicions growing. He's definitely hiding something. AG flinched when a sudden beam of light from Minoru's flashlight cut through the darkness, shining directly toward him. The light passed over a cabinet just a second too late. AG had vanished. He'd already leapt onto the top of a storage unit, crouching silently as he observed Minoru from above. I want to kill that flashlight, but of all the people here, it had to be him, AG thought, weighing his options. After a long pause, he clenched his jaw and made up his mind. If it comes to it, I'll take the old man out first. Just then, a strange noise echoed from outside the warehouse. Minoru, Yingyu, and Rekin all tensed up. The members of the Donglian syndicate hadn't left, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then Minoru noticed something odd. There was a slime clinging to the wall, one that hadn't been there earlier. He narrowed his eyes, unsure. A monster. The gang members scrambled to shine their flashlights on it. As the light hit, everyone's breath caught in their throats. What the hell is that? Slime. Even with all his experience, Minoru paused, unsure how to react. That voice, everyone's attention is on that thing now. From up above, AG's eyes glinted. Perfect, he thought. This is my chance. A red string was tied tightly to the shopping cart. Without making a sound, AG used it to lower himself back into the cart, like a silent shadow. Nobody noticed a thing. Not even Minoru, who was entirely focused on the slime now looming behind him. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Trusting his instincts, Minoru slowly turned around. What he saw made his stomach drop. What the hell, it's turning into me. The slime was mimicking his shape, growing limbs, molding its face like it was building a replica of him molecule by molecule. And just as it finished, it lunged at him with blinding speed. All around the warehouse, chaos erupted. The slime had started copying others as well. What is this? Get off me, stop. Everyone was suddenly forced to face their own twisted doppelganger, crafted by the slime's bizarre powers. Minoru's breaths came short and sharp as he stared down his gooey clone. So that's it, he tightened his grip on his flashlight, his brow furrowed in frustration. A shapeshifter, great. Just what we needed, more trouble. As the old soldier battled his own replica, a sudden scream pierced through the warehouse. Stay back. Startled, Minoru snapped his head around to see what was happening. To his shock, another slime had begun attacking AG and his mother. As the creature crept closer, AG's mom instinctively stepped back, trying to shield her child. Meanwhile, our protagonist seized the opportunity to cry dramatically, putting on a full performance. That thing from earlier. He wailed. Seeing AG cry like that, Minoru hesitated, a sliver of doubt slipping away. Wait, is he really just a child? AG of course kept the tears flowing, committed to the act. Good. This way I can keep everything under wraps. But inside he was getting impatient. Come on, old man, get over here and help already. As the slime drew closer, AG made sure to cry even louder. He wasn't scared at all, on the contrary, he found the creature's texture oddly amusing. Kinda squishy. Minoru meanwhile was still locked in combat with his doppelganger. The replica attacked relentlessly, forcing Minoru to dodge with all his skill. He spotted a shovel nearby, grabbed it, and swiftly slashed the creature's neck. But the attack did nothing. The slime instantly regenerated, its neck reforming like nothing had happened. Minoru scowled. Useless. You can't decapitate something that doesn't have a real head. The thing was regenerating too fast to kill by conventional means. Frustrated, Minoru finally sighed. What a pain, it was time to end this. He tossed the shovel aside and shrugged off the heavy backpack from his shoulders. As the bag opened, it revealed a small arsenal of weapons, knives, guns, and everything in between. Slime type, so it's that kind of monster, he muttered. Every creature had a weakness. Minoru just had to find this one's. Meanwhile, over by AG, things were getting worse. The slime clone had grabbed his mother, and she shouted again in panic, "Stay back." Out of options, Yingyu finally pulled the trigger on her taser. Electricity surged through the slime, and the creature immediately dropped to the floor, convulsing. So that's it, electricity and dehydration, AG realized. Acting fast, he silently sent his threads latching onto the creature, then flung it into a pile of flour. The dry powder sucked the moisture right out of it, leaving the monster immobilized. And the third weakness is overwhelming force, he concluded. Minoru figured that out too. He slammed his own replica to the ground, pulled out a firearm, and opened fire, bullets tearing through the slime. Under the barrage, the creature finally dissolved into a puddle of goo. But that wasn't the end of it. Minoru's sharp eyes caught movement. There's still one more. The remaining slime had targeted Yingyu. AG was still pretending to be a clueless kid, so all he could do was cast a dramatic look full of love and fear toward the monster. Not bad, old man, he thought, as another bullet tore through the slime. Minoru again, stepping in at just the right time. Relief washed over AG. Looks like I've bought myself some time. Still, Minoru shot him a suspicious glance. AG had no choice but to keep playing dumb. Despite the punishment it had taken, the slime was still twitching. It's still alive, AG noted grimly. Minoru raised his weapon again and blasted it with hot air until it stopped moving altogether. Then came a sound from behind. AG turned and saw Lee crawling out from the pile of crates. The earlier attack from Minoru had left his face swollen and bruised. Looks like the old man messed him up pretty good. But I can't let him get away, AG thought coldly. Just the sight of Lee's smug, battered face made AG want to tear him apart. I swear I'm going to kill him. But then he glanced at Minoru standing beside him, and hesitated. If I use my powers now, he'll find out everything. What the hell am I supposed to do? While AG was momentarily distracted, a hand suddenly grabbed him before he could react. Lai had moved fast, kicking the shopping cart directly into Yingyu. By the time Yingyu and Minoru noticed what was happening, it was already too late. I'm taking the kid, Lee barked as he aimed his gun at them. Drop your weapons now. AG's face darkened, but in truth he was thrilled. Finally, he thought with a hidden smirk. The opportunity I've been waiting for. Seeing no one move, Lee yelled again, louder this time. I said drop them. Or the kid dies. Yingyu and Minoru stood frozen, uncertain what to do. AG dangled in Lai's grasp, continuing to play the helpless child, while inside he was savoring every second. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed through the warehouse. A slime creature came barreling toward Lee, and in its hand was a grenade. What the hell is that? Lai shouted, too stunned to react. Before he could stop it, the slime pulled the pin. A deafening explosion rocked the warehouse, sending smoke and debris flying in all directions. Taking advantage of the chaos, Lee grabbed AG and bolted out the back door. As they fled, AG noticed a strange red crystal in a nearby supply bag. A Tier 1 core, he realized instantly. With a flick of his hidden tendrils, he snatched the crystal just before Lai dragged him away. The core was his now. Lai made it out the back, still holding AG, and didn't stop until they'd cleared the warehouse. Looking back at the slimes swarming the area, Lai scowled in disgust. Persistent freaks. Just die already. Then a familiar voice called out, "Boss." Lee and Eiji turned toward the sound. A group of Lee's subordinates had just arrived. One of them blinked, surprised. That was fast. Eiji narrowed his eyes. More of them. Great. Lee brushed the dust off himself with a sigh. Things didn't go according to plan. Still dusting off, he barked at his men, "Get everything ready. We're leaving. Now." "Yes, sir." They replied in unison. As Lee adjusted his clothes, the edge of a tattoo peeked out from his collar and Eiji's eyes widened. He recognized it instantly. That tattoo on Lee's neck, it was him. The one who led me to my death in my previous life. Eiji would never forget that mark. I never saw his face back then, he always wore a mask. But that word Lee was tattooed right there on his neck. Rage boiled in his chest as he glared at the man who'd helped destroy him. "I never thought I'd get to see your face with my own eyes." Noticing the tiny kid glaring at him with deadly intent, Lee scoffed and yanked Eiji by the collar. "What you staring at, huh?" Suddenly, someone shouted, "What's that?" A strange red light began to glow around Lee's subordinates. Whatever it was, they couldn't resist it. They collapsed one by one, groaning and writhing in pain. No one knew when it had appeared. But above them now swirled a thick, eerie red cloud. Eiji's expression turned grim. "That's red dust. A phenomenon deadly to humans. Anyone who touches it will either die instantly, or turn into a monster." As the red dust settled into their bodies, every single one of Lee's men transformed into hideous creatures. One of them, its skin now bright red, glanced at Lee and immediately charged toward him without hesitation. Lee panicked, eyes wide with fear. He had nothing left in him to fight. And, being the selfish bastard he was, he didn't hesitate to shove Eiji toward the monster. "Here. Take the kid." He tossed Eiji forward like a human shield and ran for the warehouse. But Eiji wasn't having it. "You think I'll just let you use me as bait? Think again. Let's see how you like it, when I show you what I'm really capable of." Eiji pulled out the Tier 1 core he'd snatched earlier and absorbed it without hesitation. In an instant, countless black tendrils erupted from his small body, wrapping around him like living shadows. The tendrils began to twist and shift, forming arms, a face, legs, until a fully grown adult form stood where the child once was. This was Eiji's true power. This is what I'm really capable of. With determination in his eyes, Eiji made up his mind. This time, I'm going all out. Behind him, a red-skinned monster lunged in for a sneak attack. But the creature wasn't even a threat. With a single lash of his tendril, Eiji swatted it away like a fly. He paused, watching the slick, writhing tendrils dance around him. A faint sense of awe crossed his face. The cores have fused, he thought. Now I can use a new technique. It doesn't even feel like I'm using a weapon, it feels like it's part of me. Not far from him, Lee's subordinates who had been transformed by the red dust began to merge. One by one, their monstrous bodies twisted together into a single towering beast. With a guttural roar, the massive creature swung a fist straight at Eiji. But Eiji didn't flinch. Instead, he sprinted toward the monster, aiming directly for its eye. Dozens of tendrils shot forward, converging into a single drill-like spike. The moment it struck, it burrowed deep into the monster's eye, piercing straight through. Perfect, Eiji thought, pleased with his newfound precision. I can control this form way better than that thing can. Before the creature could react, his tendrils wrapped around its body, tightening like a vice. And with one swift squeeze, boom, the monster exploded into a rain of shredded flesh. The beast was dealt with. Now, it was time for the real target. Eiji turned his gaze toward Lee. The man stumbled backward, panic flooding his face. Who the hell are you? Eiji narrowed his eyes, briefly wondering. He didn't see me transform earlier, did he? It didn't matter. Whether Lee saw or not, he wasn't getting out of this alive. Eiji took a step forward, his voice calm but ice-cold. You're next. That single sentence sent a chill straight through Lee's spine. Eiji smiled. A quiet, knowing, merciless smile, one that would surely haunt Lee's nightmares for the rest of his life. No more running. Eiji charged straight at him, his body surging with power. This bastard is going to pay for everything he did to me in my past life. Eiji dashed straight toward Lee. Panic flashed across Lee's face as he fumbled for his gun, frantically pulling the trigger in a desperate attempt to stop him. The gunshot echoed through the air. A bullet soared straight toward AG. But to him it was nothing. Too slow. The bullet whizzed through the air, headed straight for his chest, yet AG didn't even blink. Calmly tracking its trajectory with his eyes, he showed no fear at all. This body might be artificial, but compared to a child's, its speed and power are on a whole different level. Just as the bullet reached him, AG casually caught it between his fingers and tossed it aside like it was nothing more than a toy. He glanced down at his hand, thoughtful. I still don't understand the true origin of this power, this darkness. I need to investigate the limits of it. Lai, watching all this unfold, was shaking with terror. You monster! Before he could even take another breath, AG closed the distance and grabbed him by the head. Without hesitation, he hurled Li across the ground. The impact was brutal. Li's nose erupted in blood, his face bruised and swollen beyond recognition. He couldn't even stand anymore. All he could do was groan, sprawled out on the floor. AG took a step forward, preparing for the final blow. This is the end. But then Lai laughed. His trembling hand reached into his jacket pocket, fumbling for something. His voice dropped, almost whispering, so, that story, about him, it was true. AG froze. What? Him? What's he talking about? Does Li know who I am? From his pocket, Li pulled out a strange-looking vial filled with a dark liquid. With a crazed grin, he looked up at AG. You're acting tough now, kid, but don't think that means you've already won. And without hesitation, he jabbed the needle into his own neck. Suddenly his body started to mutate, twisting, swelling, warping into something grotesque. A memory slammed into AG. That's right, this happened in my past life too. The organization started testing that serum even before the catastrophe began, a formula that turned humans into monsters, but allowed them to keep their consciousness. Could it really be that one? Li's transformation continued, his body growing larger, more monstrous by the second. A chill ran down AG's spine. A familiar dread began to creep in. Cold sweat trickled down his face. The more the creature took shape, the more AG's eyes widened in horror. No, it can't be. Not him. Finally, the transformation was complete. Standing in front of him was the exact same monster that had killed him in his past life. One of its giant tendrils, Li's tendril, now swung toward AG like a whip. Luckily, AG managed to dodge just in time. Gritting his teeth, AG leapt into the air, retaliating with his own tendrils aimed at the creature's face. But when they hit, nothing. The monster didn't even flinch. Damn it. That skin's too thick. With a guttural roar, the beast unleashed a wave of tendrils, all lashing out toward AG. Everywhere they touched, they tore the surroundings to pieces. Despite the chaos, AG managed to dodge them all, though just barely. The air felt heavy, every moment was a near miss. And then, a prickling sensation ran up his back. Behind me, he turned. Too late. He'd walked right into Li's trap. AG clenched his teeth, fury surging through him. That's when it hit him, he had fallen right into Li's trap. This whole thing, it was a setup from the start. A tendril extended from AG's back, twisting violently into a drill. With a roar, he hurled it straight toward the creature. What, killing me once wasn't enough for you? He locked eyes with the monster, his gaze sharp and focused as he searched for any weakness in its towering, mutated form. Suddenly, a massive spike erupted from the ground beneath him. AG narrowly dodged it, flipping back onto higher ground with ease. He steadied himself and kept watching. Not this time. He wasn't the same helpless kid from before. The me from my past life, and the me now were two completely different people. I'm not dying to this thing again. Then boom. A sudden explosion burst across the creature's body. AG's eyes snapped to the source. What the? Who did that? A shadow stood in the distance, Minoru. Rifle in hand, eyes locked on the monster. He didn't even flinch. That thing, it's the big-eyed monster, isn't it? Minoru muttered to himself, calmly reloading his rifle. Perfect timing. Let's see what this thing I borrowed from the Dongren gang can really do. With quick hands, he chambered a special round, aimed again, and fired. Bullets ripped through the air, slamming into the creature's side. The monster howled in agony. Whatever was in those bullets, it was working. Meanwhile, AG looked on, confused and a bit shaken. Big-eyed monster. That didn't sound right. This thing, it wasn't just some random monster. It was the multi-eyed orb creature. It had a name. A face. Then it hit him. His lips curled into a cold, knowing smirk. Lie, no, wait. And just like that, everything clicked into place. So that's what this is. From the very beginning, the organization Lee belonged to had predicted the coming catastrophe. Very soon this world will be consumed by disaster. If you want to survive, join us. That organization had a name X. When Lee first joined, they handed him a gift. This is from the organization. A little something for you. It wasn't just a gift, it was a test. This charm will reveal your true nature. Lee had scoffed at first. What a load of crap, he thought. But the more he stared at the vial in his hand, the more it gnawed at him. My true nature. Do I even know what that is? And then he injected it. That was the moment everything changed. I finally understood. I was born to exploit the weakness of others. Even as a child, Lee had a twisted talent for manipulation. He could twist words like a knife and smile while doing it. Hey ma'am, your husband's cheating on you, isn't he? The woman scoffed. What nonsense are you spouting, kid? But Lee simply pointed to the well-dressed man nearby. That guy. That's your husband, right? And with a perfectly timed smirk, he added fuel to the fire. He said, you look like a pig when you're asleep. Like this. He made a snorting sound, just to drive the point home. The woman snapped. What did you say? She decked her husband on the spot. You cheating bastard. The man, completely blindsided, shouted back, what the hell? You've lost your mind, I'm divorcing you. And just like that, the woman's world collapsed. She dropped to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I know, I'm ugly. That's when Lee stepped in like a false angel in the dark. A soft hand on her shoulder. I can show you a better place. His words were honeyed poison, spinning webs around her broken heart. Somewhere safe. Somewhere kind. No one will hurt you again. It was all a lie. But that was the point. Lee had perfected the art of draining people with nothing but his voice. I've always used my gift, my lies, to manipulate hearts, and drain everything from them. Now, as his monstrous form twisted and swelled, his transformation neared completion. I'm becoming a monster. But my mind, it's still human. My true nature is a liar who toys with human hearts. Grade 4 monster, the deceiver Lee. AG now saw the beast's true form, and more importantly, its power. This thing shows people illusions based on their deepest fears. Charging blindly wouldn't help. In fact, it would only wear him out faster. Random attacks won't work on him. He kept studying Lee's movements, looking for an opening. One strike. That's all he needed. I just have to wait for the right moment. And I'll be the one to finish this. Suddenly, bang. A gunshot rang out. A bullet slammed into Lee's body. Startled, Lee snapped around. Who the hell? It was Minoru. Again. Lee's expression twisted into hatred. That damn old man. You just don't quit, do you? Snarling with rage, Lee made his decision. He would eliminate Minoru first. Die already, old man. You're taking up space. From his grotesque body, dozens of glowing swords erupted, all aimed at Minoru. All of Lee's summoned swords flew straight toward Minoru. The old soldier reacted instantly, dodging with practiced agility. He dove behind a nearby crate, using it for cover. Resting his rifle on the crate's edge, Minoru steadied his aim and fired again. Bullets rained down on Lee, forcing him to stagger backward. He gritted his teeth in frustration. You stubborn bastard, he hissed. Once more, Lee conjured a storm of glowing swords. You're dead this time. The ground exploded under the barrage. Detonations shattered the warehouse floor. Dust and smoke filled the air, blanketing everything in a suffocating haze. Lee paused, his vision clouded. Damn it, I can't see a thing. And that's when he remembered, wait, where's the other one? AG was gone. Before Lee could react, something cold pressed against his neck. It was AG. A sharpened tentacle was resting right against Lee's throat. Found you. Lee leapt back in panic. You little. He clutched his neck, fuming. How did this brat break free from the illusion? Still stunned, Lee noticed something sticky left behind on AG's tendrils. It was his own syrup, evidence that AG had bypassed his defenses. You're just a grade 4 monster, AG said, calmly walking toward him. A parasitic worm who feeds on the weak. AG's voice was cold, sharp, filled with disdain. You pretend to be special. But you're nothing. His tail lashed out again. Lee dodged barely. But AG wasn't about to let him off easy. The tail curved, shifted and locked tightly around Lai's leg, yanking him down. Damn those cursed tentacles. Lai hissed. He's using them again. Out of options, Lee activated his illusion spell once more. But it was no use. This time AG didn't even flinch. Lee's eyes widened. No way, he's unaffected. Panicking, Lee unleashed a barrage of illusion sights, sounds, fears, memories all meant to shatter the mind. But AG kept walking forward. His voice cut through the fog like a blade. Thanks to you, I remember exactly what it felt like to die. And now he was going to return the favor. AG launched forward with terrifying speed. Take it, everything I've got. Lai had no time to react. Wham! AG's tail slammed full force into Lee's neck. The impact echoed through the warehouse like thunder. Thick green blood dripped from Lai's mangled arm. He was wounded, but still alive barely. He glared at AG, hatred burning in his eyes. You bastard. But AG didn't give him a second to breathe. He glanced at his own arm, preparing for the next strike. Still something gnawed at him. Killing him won't end this, not yet. This was just the beginning. In 2 hours the next red dust wave will arrive, AG thought grimly. And when it does, humanity will face its first true apocalypse, the mutant tide. His tentacle rose again, poised at Lee's throat. Lai was too weak to fight back. He could only stall. Wait. But AG's voice was cold and final. I'm not interested in your last words. Cornered, Lai roared in frustration and unleashed one last desperate attack. A thick fog spilled out from his body, enveloping everything. Another illusion, AG muttered, tensing. Through the mist he scanned for Lai. Damn it. He can still fight even in this state. But it didn't matter. I'll end it. I'll take his head. He pinpointed Lai's location. There. Just as he was about to strike, a voice called out, trembling and familiar. AG-chan? His hand froze. Standing before him, tears in her eyes, was Yingyu. You're going to kill your mother? She asked softly, voice cracking. But AG didn't fall for it. His eyes narrowed. So this is your plan, trying to use her against me. As his focus slipped for just a moment, Lee struck. A barrage of flaming spheres exploded against AG, launching him backward. The force of the blast left AG dazed, injured, and drained. Damn it, what a pain. From the settling smoke, Lai stepped forward grinning. How unfortunate, he sneered. Looks like you won't be killing me today. In his hand he held a jagged, glowing spike. AG's eyes locked onto it. If that thing pierces me. Lai's grin widened. Oh, you recognize it. Good. This spike will let me read your heart. His monstrous eye gleamed. Your thoughts. Your fears. Your every move laid bare inside this eye. AG's strength was almost gone, and Lee knew it. One more hit, and you're done, aren't you? AG gritted his teeth. Damn it. I'm really cornered. He glanced toward Minoru. It's all up to the old man now. And Minoru didn't disappoint. While Lee was distracted, a shot rang out aimed directly at his head. But Lee dodged just in time. Nice try, he growled. You think a normal gun can take down a grade 4 monster? He sneered. You were counting on that old man, weren't you? Lai turned toward Minoru's hiding place. I can see him. Right there. I am a god, he roared. You're hiding right here. He charged straight for the crate Minoru had been behind, but when he tore it open, no one was there. Minoru was gone. In his place was a gift. Click. Boom. The explosion rocked the warehouse. Lai flew backward, engulfed in flame and shrapnel. His body hit the floor hard, bloodied and scorched. He wasn't dead, but he was badly wounded. From across the smoke, AG looked up, stunned. A grenade. Minoru's trap had worked like a charm. Lai clutched his bleeding, half-deaf ear and screamed in rage. Nearby, AG casually gave a thumbs up. Classic old man. Quick as ever. Then he glanced around, puzzled. Wait, where is he? The answer came a second later. Right here. From behind, Minoru lunged, driving a dagger straight toward Lee's neck. You bastard. The blade nearly struck true, but Lai twisted just in time. Die. Lai retaliated immediately, his movement still sharp despite his injuries. Then AG's voice rang out, calm and sharp like a blade. Hey Lai. The name hit like a slap. How do you know that name? AG smirked. Want to know your future? Lee's face tightened with confusion. What are you talking about? Bang. While Lee hesitated, Minoru fired another shot straight into him. The bullet tore through his side, staggering him. Minoru moved in for the kill. Rot in hell. Suddenly, Lee's head throbbed violently. What the hell is this? Visions flooded his mind, the children he tormented. Why do I have to babysit these worthless rats? His failures. His downfall. No matter what I do, I'll always be a loser. Eiji's voice echoed in his skull. This is your future. How does it feel? Lee clutched his head, shaking. Stop it. This can't be real, this isn't my future. But the truth was clawing at his mind. Panicking, Lee grabbed the nearest thing, a grenade. No, I won't let this happen. But then he looked down. Wait, what the hell is this? Boom, too late. The grenade exploded in his hand. His scream tore through the smoke. Lee had officially become Lee the Limbless. Writhing in agony, he hurled himself at Minoru in blind fury. But the old man dodged with ease, and standing right in Lee's path was Eiji. Impossible splat. In a single, clean motion, Eiji's tendrils sliced through Lee's body. Blood sprayed. Limbs fell. And his head hit the ground with a sickening thud. Eiji stood tall, victorious. I don't care what your future looks like. Because now you're not getting one. He smirked. This time looks like you're the one who got played. For a moment, Lee didn't even realize what had happened. What the hell just happened? His mind spun. Images blurred in front of his eyes, monstrous machines. Yinyu. The screaming children. The rubble. The destruction. What the hell am I seeing? Then flash. A red eye opened before him. A deep-sea horror, something ancient and cruel, grabbed Lee and lifted him into the air. Sweat poured down his face. His entire body trembled. He was nothing but prey now. Then bam! It slammed his head down hard against the earth. A cloud of dust exploded out. Eiji and Minoru were already waiting, eyes locked on him, weapons ready. Lee groaned, dazed and broken. That hit, I can't take another. I have to get out of here. But instead of running, he laughed. Loud and hysterical. Both Eiji and Minoru stared, confused. So that's it. Lee shouted. Despite his mangled body and cracked voice, he sneered, trying to stall. This is what they warned me about. He turned to Eiji, eyes wild. When they said beware the child. Minoru's eyes flicked toward Eiji, puzzled. Child? Lee's expression darkened. His smile twisted into something dangerous. His voice dropped, cold and venomous. You are the disaster egg. Eiji stood frozen, stunned by the ridiculous label that had just been thrown at him. Disaster egg, he echoed in disbelief. Lee continued to rant, his voice rasping with venom. You're the one who started all this. You've just thrown away your peaceful life. The organization will come after you now. But before he could finish, a sudden gunshot rang out, the muzzle flash lighting up the air boom. A bullet tore straight through his face. Both Eiji and Minoru gasped, stunned by the sudden execution. A sniper stood atop a vehicle nearby, his rifle still smoking. He spoke calmly as he slung his weapon behind him. You can kill your enemies. But if you can't, he paused and stepped down from the vehicle. Thick fog swirled and parted, revealing a rugged off-road truck slowly approaching. The man emerged from the haze like a ghost, wearing a gas mask, moving with purpose and control. As he came to a stop beside the vehicle, he slung the rifle over his back and finished his sentence. You'll become your own worst enemy. Eiji's face darkened in alarm. Military. This is bad. If they're here, this could get really ugly. Without wasting a second, he turned and bolted. Gone in a flash. Minoru blinked in surprise. Why's the kid running off like that? A voice called from behind him. Sensei. Minoru turned and saw the gas-masked man removing his gear. Underneath the mask, he revealed a sharp, youthful face. It was Snow Wolf Captain Lion. He greeted Minoru with a polite smile. You told me this would happen, didn't you? Suddenly a monstrous roar burst out behind him. A savage creature lunged forward to attack, claws ready to tear. But Lion didn't even blink. Boom! Before the beast could land a blow, an explosion ripped through its body. Blood splattered everywhere. It disintegrated instantly. He had struck it down faster than it could react. Effortlessly. Mercilessly. A cold gleam flickered in his eyes as he offered a faint smile. Eiji, hiding behind a crumbling wall, witnessed the entire thing. His heart pounded. He didn't even move. Not a twitch. Meanwhile, Minoru narrowed his eyes at the newcomer. Lion, what are you doing here? I told you I need to go back. I have to find my niece. But Lion showed little concern for his mentor's words. He stepped closer, voice soft but steady. Sensei, he reached into his coat and pulled out a phone. We're in a state of emergency. I need you to come back. He tapped the screen a few times. Then he held the phone up to show Minoru. On the screen was a photo of Minoru's niece, hot, bound and held captive. A polite smile lingered on Lion's face. His voice was gentle yet held unmistakable weight. She's still safe. Because we're protecting her. And the army needs a commander to lead them. Minoru's expression darkened. His jaw clenched as he stared at the photo of his beloved niece being used as leverage. Behind the wall, Eiji had been listening the whole time. He whispered to himself, confused, go back, to the military. Commander. Then his eyes widened in shock. Wait, he's the former military commander. Lion tilted the phone toward Minoru again, tempting him. Would you like to confirm she's okay? Minoru's eyes locked on the screen. He let out a long, heavy sigh. He had no choice, they were forcing his hand. He brushed past Lion, voice hollow and tired. Do whatever you want. Let's go. The two began to walk away. Eiji watched from the shadows, troubled. What do I do now? Then a sudden weakness overtook him. His knees buckled, sweat pouring from his face. Damn it, he collapsed to the ground. Far off, a sharp sound rang out, clang. It drew Lion's attention. Mim? He raised his gun and fired, boom. A nearby crate exploded into pieces. And there, emerging from the wreckage, was Eiji, now reduced to the form of a child. He stared down at his small hands, rage and fear gripping his heart. No, not now, if they find me like this. Lion began walking toward him, slow and calm. Each step brought him closer. Eiji grit his teeth, his entire body trembling in panic. The man lowered his rifle straight to Eiji's face, narrowing his eyes in surprise. Oh? So it was just a kid? Eiji's heart dropped. He'd been spotted too fast. The stranger's expression shifted. His gaze sharpened with suspicion. I'm pretty sure I saw a monster lurking around here a second ago. He tightened his grip on the trigger. Was it you? The barrel pressed hard against Eiji's cheek. Eiji gritted his teeth, cursing internally. Damn it, he's really going to shoot without even checking. Just as the man was about to pull the trigger, click. A hand reached out and gently stopped him. Lion, wait. It was Minoru. The older man spoke calmly but firmly. I left this child here on purpose. Lion slowly lowered the gun, his tone unreadable. Is that so? Without hesitation, Minoru stepped forward and pulled Eiji into his arms, embracing him protectively. Eiji's eyes went wide in shock, squirming in disbelief. What the hell is this old man doing? But Minoru played along smoothly, ruffling Eiji's hair and smiling softly. You did great, kiddo. Such a good boy. The words were meant for show. As Lion relaxed slightly, Minoru leaned down and whispered softly into Eiji's ear, his tone low enough that no one else could hear. Listen, kid. Your best bet is to play dumb. Don't break character until the very end. Eiji stopped struggling. He understood. Without missing a beat, he threw himself into the act, wailing loudly, tears streaming down his face and soaking Minoru's shoulder. Lion tilted his head slightly, amused by the scene. You two sure seem close, Hugh-sensei? He took a step closer, crouching down to meet Eiji's eyes. What do you say, kid? Want to come with us? Eiji glanced up through wet lashes, forcing himself to tremble. But inside, his thoughts raced. Something's off about this guy's presence. It's too calm. Then suddenly his eyes widened. Wait a second. He stared hard at Lion's smiling face. That smile. That stare. I've seen that face before. His mind raced back to somewhere deep within the organization. Don't tell me this guy is one of them. After being placed on the bed by Lion, Eiji stared fixedly at the man's face, as if trying to recall where he had seen him before. That guy. If his memory served him right, this man was a key figure in an organization known by the codename Tank, someone with an extremely troublesome ability. The man could manipulate blood, he could control the blood inside a body and make it explode as a weapon. Meanwhile, Lion was silently observing Eiji in return. That child was not sleeping. He had passed out from oxygen deprivation. Eiji tried to feign ignorance, hoping Lion would let his guard down and leave. What the hell is going on, he thought. Was he just trying to kill that kid? Should I be wary of him? Suddenly, he felt the man's gaze turn toward him and instantly shut his eyes tight. Do not move, Eiji, he told himself. Lion assessed him quietly. The boy's power had awakened far too quickly. Hong Lin had only just begun. Had this kid been a compatible host even before the world collapsed? But then, when exactly had he awakened? A sly grin spread across Lion's face. The time for testing was near. As he brought his hand closer to Eiji's head, a pink energy pulsed from his palm. Be a good boy and stay quiet, he said softly. Eiji clenched his teeth and grimaced, but did not dare make a sound or resist. Stop, Lion muttered as he stepped back from the crib, watching Eiji lie motionless. Then he whispered under his breath before leaving, this is going to be fun. Moments later, once Eiji was sure Lion was gone, he opened one eye. Seizing the opportunity, he braced himself to move. In an instant, Eiji sprang up within his tiny crib. Let us begin, he murmured. His plan had gone perfectly. The deceiver he had defeated earlier was a monster of the psychic type, Heaven's Devourer and Mind Resistance. By absorbing its barrier skill, Eiji had gained the ability to shield himself from mental assaults. I have timed it so that when the blood flow slows down, the fake blood will automatically reabsorb itself, he thought, glancing around. All he could see were other small cages surrounding him. More importantly, why were there only children here? Every one of them was labeled a calamity child. That term he had heard it before in his previous life, though back then he had not been qualified to know what it truly meant. But now, Lion was part of the organization. He definitely knew. The military's annihilation had been caused by the organization itself, and that old man was in a frenzy, all because he was searching for his only grandchild. Perhaps the old man did not completely trust Lion. The more Eiji thought about it, the more questions crowded his mind. And what was this test supposed to be? The only thing certain was that the current situation was dire. The truth felt shrouded by a dense fog right before his eyes. A-chan. Why are she and the dog here? He wondered briefly. But he quickly forced his thoughts elsewhere. No, I do not have time to worry about anyone else. First, I need to find a way out. Channeling all his awakened energy into his hand, Eiji unleashed a fierce strike. But nothing fired off, nothing shattered or exploded. His power was not responding. Damn it, it is not working. The crystal he would acquired earlier had fused everything together and produced dark energy. The problem was that when those crystals merged, the previous energies vanished. Now, the only powers he could use were darkness and divine barrier. Divine barrier, the ability to resist all forms of mental assault. The dark energy was strong enough, but using it here would be reckless. Eiji decided it was better to stay cautious until he fully understood their intentions. He could not afford to reveal his power carelessly. So now that I have got no strength left, what can I even do? He wondered bitterly. I really am just a baby right now. If that was the case. Then his eyes fell on Haran, who lay in a nearby crib. Vines were sprouting and curling from her tiny legs. His jaw dropped. She is a compatible one too, he blinked in disbelief, turning his gaze to the other cribs. No way. That one too, and that one, every single child he looked at radiated energy. They all possessed powers. Do not tell me. They are all compatible. In his previous life, those who were compatible had all been captured and now they were being gathered into a place like this. Suddenly, one of the vines wrapped around Eiji's ankle and hoisted him up into the air. He struggled, but it was no use. Damn it, what the hell is this? I can't break free. Using your power in a place like this, a voice cut in sharply. Tiyuan approached, gripping the vine tightly until it dissolved into nothing, dropping Eiji to the ground. Fortunately, he landed without serious harm. The boy slowly walked toward him and said coolly, "You should have just stayed asleep." Then, with commanding authority, he ordered, "Be quiet and do as you are told, rookie." Eiji looked up at him, taken aback by the kid's domineering attitude. There was something oddly admirable about the way this little boy carried himself. He is, 5 years old, and he can already control his power. A familiar ting echoed in both their ears, making them click their tongues in unison. It is starting already, Tiyuan muttered, then turned and bolted. Watching him sprint off, AG frowned. Is he trying to escape? At that moment, the door burst open and several figures rushed in. A panicked voice shouted, "The test is starting, get all the kids out, now." A nurse spotted AG lying on the floor, apparently asleep, and exclaimed, "Huh, why's this one on the ground?" AG kept his eyes shut tight, muttering inwardly, "Pretend to be asleep, pretend to be asleep." The nurse did not question it further and scooped him up. As he listened to the hurried footsteps echoing through the night, AG's thoughts raced. What the hell is happening? What are they planning to do with these kids? The nurses carried the children down into a basement. AG cracked one eye open. The place was dark and foreign and unfamiliar, suffocating space. Where the hell is this? The pitch-black chamber stretched endlessly before him. Are they really planning to make these kids fight to the death? His heart clenched. Damn it. I can feel the organization's presence here. He stopped pretending to sleep, pushing himself up on the cold floor. Around him were more children, confused, innocent, terrified. When he lifted his gaze, he caught Lyon's faint, knowing smirk from across the room. AG pressed his lips together, every nerve on high alert. Then came a horrid, wet sound from behind. He turned sharply and froze. A massive lizard was unfurling its tongue toward a crying boy. The poor child could only wail helplessly. AG was struck dumb by the sheer cruelty of the organization's experiment. So this is why. In the previous world, there were no surviving children, they were all used as bait. But the lizard could not advance any farther, its leg was bound tightly by an iron chain. AG noticed it immediately, his eyes narrowing in confusion. Even so, the creature's violent thrashing only made him tenser. Chained or not, it was not safe, just restrained for now. Around him, the other children began to cry, trembling in terror. The loudest among them was Taemin, whose high-pitched sobs filled the air as he screamed and bawled uncontrollably. Seeing the situation unfold, Xiao En dashed forward, scooped the boy into his arms, and sprinted away from the lizard. Once they reached a temporarily safe corner, he gently set Taemin down, then immediately stood back up and looked toward the figure standing high above. Lyon had also been quietly observing Xiao En's movements. Inside this room, they were forcing these children to fight monsters. Are they trying to push these kids to awaken their powers? Xiao En thought bitterly. I should have realized it sooner when I saw them. This was the organization's Hound Project. AG sneered inwardly as he noticed Lyon's twisted grin. Saw Li, you're up next. Lyon. I did not expect that teacher to play his role so damn well. Lyon gazed lazily down at the frightened children and muttered almost affectionately, do not disappoint me. All right. His finger pressed the red button before him. His voice was laced with excitement. Let us begin, shall we? The moment the button clicked, the chains binding the giant lizard snapped open. Free at last, the creature lunged forward like a rabid beast, charging straight at the children. AG, standing not far from it, tensed up, face contorted with fear and frustration. It is here already, huh? The monster was at least 10 times the children's size. With just one swipe, it sent AG flying backward, crashing across the floor. He slid a long distance, teeth clenched as he hissed through the pain, damn it. I can take down a level 2 beast. But as he thought that, his eyes darted toward the trembling children huddled together in a corner. Can they even stand a chance? The terrified kids clung to each other, their faces pale and eyes wide. One of them, overwhelmed by fear, broke down crying. The sharp sound made AG's heart jolt. No. He muttered. The lizard's head snapped toward the noise, its focus instantly shifting. The creature roared and charged. The children froze like statues, too terrified to move. Just as the lizard's thorned tendrils lashed out, ready to ensnare one of them, something unexpected happened. The vines wrapped around the lizard itself instead, binding its body tightly. Someone had intervened. It was AG. He grinned and raised a thumb, pride flickering across his face. From above, Lyon clapped his hands and commented with delight, excellent. That is it, keep going. Vine manipulation, huh, not bad for a beginner-level ability. That kid has not even shown his full potential yet, but it is clear he has got real power. Latent abilities only emerge when pushed to their limits. With that, Lion triggered the lizard's rage. Its already feral eyes burned brighter, gleaming with madness. In an instant, the vines snapped apart under its growing strength. Its body swelled, muscles bulging as its chest expanded, bursting through the restraints. Eiji, who had just started to feel a spark of triumph, found himself once again paralyzed with tension. "Damn it," he hissed under his breath. Eiji lifted his gaze toward the figure standing at the entrance Hazen. Inwardly, he quickly calculated. Hazen's strength was only at level 2. There was no way he could defeat a rampaging monster already bordering on level 3. Eiji stepped forward, grabbing hold of one of the vine branches, ignoring the sharp thorns that pierced into his palms and drew blood. There is no other choice, he thought grimly. I will have to do it myself. His small, agile frame moved in perfect rhythm with the whipping motion of the vines, using their momentum to launch himself toward the lizard. In an instant, he closed the distance, thrusting his palm forward as a shockwave burst out, slamming directly into the beast's body. The impact made the lizard stagger, momentarily stunned. Eiji's mind raced. If this were the divine realm, could I counter its strength somehow? He tightened his grip on the vines, swinging his body to gain momentum while simultaneously planning his next move, concealing himself within the dense network of vines. If I strike at its weak point. Yes, there. Now was the moment. Eiji's leg shot upward in a crushing kick that landed squarely under the creature's chin. The lizard stumbled, its footing slipping on something unseen, and toppled backward with a heavy crash. Where did that come from? Eiji thought, startled but unwilling to question his luck. Hidden once more in the tangle of vines, he clicked his tongue softly. Whatever, it worked. It has not noticed me yet. But before he could exhale in relief, the lizard's tail suddenly whipped around from nowhere and wrapped tightly around his body. What the? He gasped, panic flashing across his face. In the next heartbeat, he felt himself being yanked violently downward into the abyss. The speed of the fall was terrifying. The wind howled past his ears, his stomach twisted with vertigo. Then, at the very brink of death, a metallic tentacle shot down after him. It caught his arm in midair, halting his fall with a jolt that nearly dislocated his shoulder. Shock replaced fear as he realized what had happened. Moments later, the same mechanical tentacle sliced clean through the lizard's tail, sending the creature's massive body plummeting straight into the depths below. Eiji twisted his neck to look down, watching the beast disappear into the darkness. Then he turned his eyes to the robot that had just saved him. Wait. This thing. It is Hot's robot. The robot's camera lens fixed on him, scanning his face before gently lowering him onto a secure ledge. Eiji studied it closely, his instincts flaring. No. This is not one of Hot's. This is a security robot part of the Hound project. Meanwhile, in the control room, Lion stood before a large monitor, observing every detail. His subordinate, Gan Yu, reported, "The safety system has been activated. Should we proceed with the Hound project, sir?" Lion's eyes gleamed. He thought briefly of Hot, who was currently detained, and smirked in satisfaction. Bringing Hot back was the right move. With this, the plan will be flawless. On the screen, Eiji's laughter echoed faintly. He seemed almost giddy, as if enjoying himself. Lion frowned slightly. "Do not tell me this kid thinks it is all a game," he muttered. His lips curled into a smug smile. "Well, if it is the master's doing, saving a random child is not all that strange." Eiji, appearing carefree and childlike on the outside, was screaming inside. No escape this time. The thought tore through him like a knife. Is the only way to survive really to submit to the organization again? If so, then I will just end up being their hunting dog all over again. The security robot hovered closely beside him, forcing him to rack his brain for a plan. Eiji crawled cautiously toward the cliff's edge and peered down, then froze in shock. No way. It is still alive. Far below, the same lizard he had fought earlier was clawing its way upward, inch by inch. His expression twisted into a grin, his eyes flashing with wild determination. If that is what it takes to live, I would rather die on my own terms. Seizing the moment when the robot was not paying attention, Eiji flung himself off the cliff. As he would predicted, the security robot instantly lunged after him. At that very moment, the lizard beneath them coiled its muscles and leapt upward. In a blinding instant, the beast and the machine collided mid-air, the impact echoing through the chasm in a thunderous crash. Eiji's lips curled into a cunning smile as he watched both the monster and the robot plummet together into the abyss. Back in the control room, Ganyu's voice cracked with alarm. The Level 2 specimen has not reached the disposal chamber. The security robot's malfunctioning. One of the test subjects has fallen. He turned to Lion in panic. Colonel, should we retrieve the fallen subject? Lion waved a dismissive hand. No. Not necessary. The fall distance is too high. The boy's not worth saving. Lion's thoughts darkened. Hot's robot can't even handle a level 5 monster. Best not to mess with the one sleeping in the processing chamber. Even I would have a hard time taking that thing down. His expression hardened as he came to that conclusion. Passing by his subordinate, he muttered coldly, "Do not do anything unnecessary." Ganyu immediately straightened and responded crisply, "Understood, sir." Just as Lion was about to leave, his steps halted. Something else was on his mind. His tone dropped to a chilling calm. "Put the Hound project on hold. Resume the Calamity project." In the next instant, amid the pitch-black void, a swirl of darkness began to condense, forming a small, fist-sized sphere of pure black light. It plummeted downward, spinning violently as it fell. Just before it could hit the ground, an unseen current of air surged up, cradling it for a brief moment before letting it land softly. Then, from the sphere's core, two opposing energies exploded outward, one black, one white, twisting and weaving into a spiraling helix of radiance. The surge was overwhelming, spreading outward until the very air grew heavy under its pressure. A heartbeat later, at the center of that raging storm, Eiji's figure slowly emerged. His body, acting purely on instinct, shifted into a defensive stance, muscles taut, ready to strike or dodge at any moment. His breath came slow and steady as he scanned his surroundings. What is this place? It looked like a dump, gray limestone spires jutting out of the ground. Heaps of trash and broken debris piled high. The air reeked of decay and damp rot, stinging the back of his throat. Lowering his gaze, Eiji swept the area carefully. In a shadowed corner between two towering mounds of waste, he spotted a rusted iron gate. That could be the exit. If I can get out through there. He did not have time to celebrate the discovery. A faint sound rippled through the air, so light it could have been mistaken for the wind, yet sharp enough to send a jolt of tension down his spine. His ears twitched. His eyes darted toward the source. From the heaps of trash, dark shapes began to crawl out, gaunt creatures with elongated tongues flicking across their lips hungrily. Eiji's expression remained calm, almost detached, as he waved his hand dismissively. But he knew it would not be that easy. Then, a small frown crossed his face. They are all torn up, half rotten, even. In that case, I will put them out of their misery. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Raising his index finger toward the horde, tendrils of black energy coiled around his fingertip, spinning into a vortex of darkness. The creature's survival instincts screamed at them. They knew if they did not attack now, they would never get another chance. They lunged all at once, snarling, eyes wild. One leapt first, its black claws slashing toward his head. But when it was only inches away, Eiji tilted slightly to the side. In the same breath, his right hand shot forward, piercing straight through its forehead. Blood sprayed. The creature went limp. Eiji withdrew his hand, holding a glistening, blood-smeared magic core that dripped onto the filthy ground. The others went berserk. With a unified shriek, they rushed him from every direction. Eiji's arms moved in a blur, swift, precise, lethal. Blades of condensed force sliced through the air. In mere seconds, 4 heads were sent flying, rolling across the garbage-strewn floor. But that was only the beginning. There were dozens more, hundreds, maybe. Every time one fell, another surged forward to take its place. Eiji's figure became a phantom in motion, darting between gaps, weaving through chaos. Everywhere he passed, blood sprayed like a storm. Monster bodies split open, limbs severed midair, skulls shattered before they could even cry out. Each strike landed with perfect accuracy. Not a single creature managed to make a sound before being cut down. Within just a few minutes, the path he had taken had turned into a dark crimson river. The thick, metallic scent of blood mingled with the damp stench of decaying garbage, creating a nauseating blend that clung to the air. AG sat down casually, leaning against a small mound made from the piled-up corpses of slain monsters. He curved his lips into a faint smirk. Hey, easy as pie. That familiar feeling from the old days was slowly coming back to him. His dark tail slid through the monsters' carcasses, extracting every last still warm magic core from their bodies. Not even the tiniest shard escaped his notice. Before long, he had amassed a sizable pile of blood-red cores. Resting his chin on his hand, he admired the spoils of battle with quiet satisfaction. That should be enough for now. Absorbing them would take some time, but that was not an issue. Judging by their aura, those monsters were probably only rank 1 or 2 anyway. Just as he was about to leave, another presence seeped into his awareness slowly, deliberately. HMPH. His eyes sharpened, a flicker of caution flashing across them. There is still one left. Not far away, amid the dim haze, a solitary figure stood motionless, not even attempting to conceal itself. The instant AG's gaze turned toward it, the figure raised its sword, and a suffocating pressure erupted from the blade. On its hilt, AG noticed a long, oval-shaped magic core embedded within it. That alone was enough for him to identify what he was dealing with. He let out a low, disdainful laugh. So, you are the king of this place, you do not look like much. In the next moment, the creature's body began to stretch, as if something inside was tearing it apart. In a blink, the single body split into 3, the sinews of its arms and legs still writhing and interwoven like living cords. AG's expression shifted into one of genuine intrigue. A monster with the ability to divide itself, that is rare. A crooked smile crept onto his face. I will take that ability for myself. The moment the words left his lips, AG bent his knees and shot forward like a launched arrow, hurling himself straight toward Barton. His figure blurred, vanishing into motion so fast that only a razor-sharp afterimage lingered in the air. A faint, predatory smile tugged at his lips, half hidden, half revealed as his blood began to boil with exhilaration. He was like a hunter who had finally found prey worthy of the chase. Barton's group did not retreat. Instead of fleeing, they charged forward head-on, ready to meet him in a life-or-death clash. Just as AG braced himself for the brutal, evenly matched battle he had been craving, something completely unexpected happened. As he closed in, Barton's entire squad suddenly veered to the side and slipped right past him in unison. AG froze mid-motion, his body stiffening for a fraction of a second as confusion and disbelief flashed across his face. He slowly turned his head, uncertain of what they were up to, and then he saw it. Behind him, the group had already begun their rampage. They were not attacking him at all. Instead, they were cutting down the remaining monsters he had left alive. The air filled with the hiss of blades slicing through flesh, cold, precise, merciless. Twisted bodies fell apart in sprays of dark blood, soaking the ground in a fresh crimson layer. The tense air that had hung thick moments ago now melted into an eerie stillness, broken only by the soft drip of blood splattering against stone. AG let out a short, derisive laugh, the sound echoing mockingly in the quiet. Well now, you are not very friendly, are you? I thought you would pay a little attention to me, but I guess not. He stepped forward, deliberately closing the distance until he was so close Barton could feel his breath. Every move he made was meant to provoke, to bait a reaction, but Barton did not flinch. He stood there unmoving, unshaken, like a statue carved from solid rock. AG's brow furrowed, his earlier excitement cooling into silent contemplation. Strange. I am standing right in front of him, and he is not even attacking. A sharp thought flashed through his mind. Tilting his head slightly, he cast a glance over Barton's shoulder. Do not tell me they are guarding the exit, he muttered, a knowing smirk creeping across his face. That would make sense. Without wasting another second, he sprang into action. Before the group could even react, AG unleashed his full speed, shooting straight toward the sealed gate that required confirmation to pass through. The theory forming in his head about them being stationed to guard the exit was almost certainly correct. And sure enough, he barely made it halfway before a chilling killing intent swept over him like a blizzard. The enemies abruptly shifted focus, giving chase with feral precision. Their blades screamed through the air, slicing close enough to shear the wind itself, forcing Eiji to halt his advance. His reflexes kicked in instantly. He leaned back hard, narrowly dodging the first thrust. The blade sliced so close it nearly grazed his chin. Then, in the blink of an eye, Barton's sword changed direction, swinging down vertically with crushing force. Eiji's pupils constricted. He did not have time to think. He threw himself backward, barely escaping the strike by a hair's breadth. The missed blow slammed into the ground, splitting it open with a thunderous crack. The floor collapsed into a jagged fissure as dust exploded into the air. Eiji landed several paces away, a cold bead of sweat trailing down his neck. That was fast. He twisted mid-air and landed gracefully on his feet, but his relief was short-lived. Before he could even steady his stance, a shadow materialized behind him, silent as death. A blade cut across the air with ghostly speed. Pain, cold and sharp, ripped through him in an instant. Eiji whipped his head around in horror, cold sweat already beading across his forehead. What the hell? There was no time to think, no time even to process the pain. Pure instinct took over. His body reacted before his mind could catch up. He leapt backward, forcing his muscles to their limit as he tried to put as much distance as possible between himself and his pursuers. His left hand clamped over his bleeding right arm, his entire body rigid from shock. That guy. What the hell kind of speed is that? I must have underestimated him, he muttered through gritted teeth. But instead of fear or agony, a wild, almost manic thrill welled up inside him. Eiji's lips curved into a sharp grin, his eyes gleaming with feverish excitement. Not bad. You have got some bite after all. But that just makes things more fun. It is only an arm, anyway. This time, Barton did not stay still. The entire group surged forward, a coordinated blur of motion, surrounding Eiji from every side. Even with one arm, Eiji moved with astonishing agility. His body twisted and flowed like water, slipping through sword strikes that sliced the air inches from his skin. He deflected, countered, and pivoted with seamless precision as the battlefield around them cracked and shuddered beneath the impact of their clash. Dust swirled wildly, turning the scene into a storm of shadows and chaos. Then, something impossible happened. Where blood should have kept pouring from his severed arm, the wound sealed itself in seconds. Eiji's right arm regenerated completely, as if it had never been cut off. A sly, calculating grin spread across his face. Just as Barton lunged in again, Eiji did not dodge. He stepped into the attack and drove his newly restored arm straight through Barton's chest. A violent spray of blood erupted, painting the air crimson. Hidden in the drifting haze, Eiji bared his teeth in a wicked smile. He grabbed Barton by the wrist, twisted hard, and spun him in a full circle before slamming the man's body into two of his comrades charging from behind. The collision rang out like a thunderclap, followed by a bone-crunching crash as all three were hurled into a towering heap of debris. Eiji laughed loudly, his voice carrying through the settling dust. Let us see how you like that one, huh, consider it payback. The haze thinned, revealing the aftermath. Barton lay motionless amid the rubble, his arms scraped and torn, his body broken and pitiful. The other two still stood, their faces tense and wary, gripping their swords tighter as they fixed their eyes on Eiji. The air between them thickened once more, heavy and electric quiet before another storm. Eiji's grin turned playful as he flexed his newly healed arm, waving it in mock greeting. Guess that makes us even now, huh, he said with a teasing smirk. Yep. Arms back to normal. The two Bartons standing side by side exchanged no words. A cold wind swept across the battlefield. Then, without warning, they attacked. Their movements were blindingly fast, so fast their bodies seemed to blur into streaks of steel and shadow. Blades rained down from every angle, relentless and precise. Eiji clenched his teeth, pushing himself to his limits to block and evade. The strikes came like a storm, and though he fought fiercely, his body began to show the toll cuts, bruises, and the dull burn of exhaustion setting in. His breathing turned ragged, and a hot metallic taste filled his mouth. Damn it, they are stronger than before. He spat blood and narrowed his eyes. They are sharing power between the copies. If that is the case, then the fewer of them there are, the stronger each one becomes. AG forced himself to focus, channeling every ounce of his remaining strength to minimize the damage. His arm throbbed with numb pain, his grip faltering slightly. TCH. What a pain in the ass. In that brief instant of distraction, Barton seized his opening. He spun sharply, delivering a brutal roundhouse kick aimed straight at AG's face. AG managed to cross his arms just in time to block, but the sheer force of the blow sent him skidding backward across the ground. Dust exploded under his feet as he struggled to steady himself, mind racing at lightning speed. Think, AG. There has got to be a way to turn this around. In this situation, I will strike every body at once. I absolutely can't let them recombine. He planted one foot firmly on the ground as an invisible whirlwind of power coiled around him, on the verge of erupting. AG went through his memories with clear-headed focus, recalling the techniques he would used before. The darkness he would stolen still had layers to be exploited. Fighting in this form was familiar to him, yet time around him seemed to slow. Behind him a faint afterimage of his child form flickered into view. The corner of his mouth stretched into a savage grin. So that is it now, he finally understood. While AG stood there lost in thought, Barton closed the distance in an instant. The blade sang as it whipped toward him, coming within inches. But AG remained unnervingly calm. Just before the sword could strike, his body shifted. First his lower half dissolved into a misty black vapor, and in the next heartbeat his whole form was absorbed into that fog, spinning wildly like a vortex. He had figured it out, there was no longer any reason to cling to a human shape. When the swirl settled, the figure that stood there was not the adult AG but his child form, a baby face, huge round eyes. And yet the mouth twisted into an eerie, inappropriate smile. He intended to finish the other man in a blink. Barton froze, stunned by the grotesque sight. They watched him, weapons at the ready. Black viscous fluid began to gather in the air, coalescing, condensing into a grotesque orb stitched from 1,000 yawning mouths and jagged teeth. Survival instinct screamed at Barton that the thing was deadly. His whole body tensed, prepared to react. It was all wasted effort. Before he could get a clear look, the black fluid slashed like a blade and the upper half of Barton vanished completely. The air stilled. AG reverted to his steady adult posture. Barton's life had slipped away, his body crumpling uselessly into the pile of refuse. AG studied the corpse and wondered whether the dead copies would automatically return to the original. His gaze fell on the dog tag pinned to Barton's chest. He noticed a wolf head emblem and the rank marking Lieutenant. Husso Barton belonged to the Snow Wolf unit. The discovery hit AG with a jolt, and a bad feeling settled in his gut. Do not tell me they sent whole unit members here. In the thick, dust-choked air that lingered after the battle, AG's slender, serpentine tail uncoiled slowly. From Barton's fallen body, it drew out a radiant ruby that gleamed with an eerie inner light. AG stared at it, a flicker of surprise flashing in his eyes. To examine it more closely, he reached out, grasped his own tail, and carefully pried the gem loose. The gem's glow spilled across his face, casting a strange, contemplative expression upon him. This shape. After a moment of silence, AG muttered under his breath, puzzled. That monster was a 5-star class. He turned to look at Barton's corpse, now nothing more than a lifeless husk, and felt an odd wave of relief. Good thing I killed it before it could merge back together. The realization of what kind of threat he would just faced weighed heavily on him. A 5-star monster, appearing this early, the thought alone tightened his chest. The crimson sky from his previous life flooded back into his mind, images of burning cities, screams, and the taste of ash filling him with unease that would not fade. Do not tell me. The apocalypse has already begun. Then, like a ray of warmth cutting through the darkness, the gentle image of Kay surfaced in his memory. More importantly, he reminded himself, in 2 days the red dust will erupt again. I have to find her fast or she will be in danger too. With that thought, AG stopped hesitating. He slung his heavy, gear-filled bag over his shoulder and quietly made his way toward the iron gate. The glowing emergency exit sign above it shimmered like a guiding beacon amid the night's gloom. Just as his hand was about to touch the handle, a sound suddenly broke the silence, making him freeze on the spot. Someone was coming. Luckily, AG's speed saved him. Before the door fully opened, he vanished into stillness. Footsteps echoed rapidly across the floor. Hot appeared first, her face twisted in frustration, followed by 2 soldiers. One of them barked sharply, "Do not move, or I will shoot." When she ignored their orders, the tension escalated. They raised their rifles, voices cutting through the air. "Hold it right there." Hot stopped, then turned with a sly little grin. "At least let me take this jacket off, will you?" she said airily, not waiting for permission. With an easy, teasing motion, she shrugged off her heavy outerwear, sighing, it is too damn hot, I can't stand it." She waved her hand lazily to fan away the heat clinging to her skin, her eyes idly scanning the area. But the longer she looked, the more confusion clouded her expression. The familiar space had become a ruin, a wasteland, and the sight sent a wave of panic through her. She let out a sharp cry. "What the hell happened here? Why does my place look like a dump? Put it back the way it was." The soldier's patience was wearing thin. One snapped irritably, "Enough, move it. You are coming with us." Hot barely paid him any attention. Annoyance flickered across her face. Her brows knit together as she huffed, "Just got here, huh?" Then she threw them a cutting glare. "Looks like you do not even know where you are standing." Her lips curved into a proud smirk. "You are standing in the domain of Lady Hot." The moment her bold declaration rang out, a sharp, metallic whistle cut through the air, followed by a shockwave that rattled the walls. In the echoing silence that followed, the first distinct sound came from above, a faint mechanical hum drifting through the lone shaft of light that pierced the gloom. The 2 soldiers stiffened instantly, eyes darting in every direction. What was that noise? Before they could make sense of it, Hot's robots emerged from the shadows, each unleashing 2 gleaming tentacles that lashed out and coiled tightly around the soldiers, trapping them in an instant. Next, the strange organism yanked both soldiers upward amid the chaotic roar of mechanical echoes. In a fleeting instant, the 2 were pulled into the blinding rift of light and vanished completely, leaving no trace behind. Hot stepped forward, her boot pressing against the still warm tail that had devoured them, and let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "Serves you right." As the strange energy swirling around her body began to subside, she exhaled slowly. Still, she could not help frowning. This is such a pain. All because of those idiots. A hint of weariness and exasperation colored her expression as she glanced around the room, which had been left in total disarray. Then, a small, mischievous smile curved her lips. "Guess it is cleanup time." At her command, a swarm of robots descended from above, landing in perfect formation to encircle the area. The monsters lurking behind the stone debris flinched at the sight, hesitating briefly, but the moment the robots detected their presence, they lunged forward with incredible speed. Without wasting a single movement, the machines eliminated every last creature in the blink of an eye. When the rampage ended, silence reclaimed the room. Then, one of the robots detected something unusual. Its camera lens rotated rapidly, scanning the surroundings, until it locked onto a source of human heat. As its spotlight swept across a human face, a sharp, metallic tail suddenly shot forward like lightning. Yet in that same heartbeat, Eiji's hand snapped up, seizing the tail and dissipating its deadly momentum before it could reach him. The instant his fingers closed around the cold metal, a chill ran down his spine, his instincts screamed a warning. He jerked to the side just in time. In the next moment, Hot appeared before him, channeling all her strength into a full-speed assault. Her strike came down like thunder, but Eiji twisted his body and leapt backward, narrowly avoiding the head-on collision. Seeing her perfect ambush evaded, Hot did not look angry. Instead, her lips curled into a delighted grin. Before the dust could settle, her figure flickered and vanished from view. A breath later, she reappeared directly opposite Eiji, her stance flawless and poised for another strike. Without hesitation, she pivoted her hips and unleashed a sweeping kick. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion as she spoke, "So, you are the one who destroyed my castle." Eiji's response was calm, almost amused. "Did not expect you to be this strong." His faint smile only deepened Hot's irritation. "TCH. Do not flatter yourself," she muttered, brushing it off. But before she could move again, Eiji's pupils suddenly contracted. Something was wrong. All around them, the mechanical tails of Hot's robots sprang open at once, each one gleaming with a razor tip aimed directly at him. Reacting instantly, Hot vaulted out of the blast radius, flipping gracefully backward just as a deafening collision erupted. The clash of forces detonated in a violent explosion, sending rock and debris hurtling in every direction. Landing lightly on her feet, Hot shifted to the side, watching the thick smoke rise with a cool, assessing gaze. For several tense seconds, nothing moved. Then, a confident smile spread across her face, the kind of expression only victors wear. Her robots lowered their weapons in unison, standing still and silent, waiting for further orders. But before she could even take another breath, a piercing beam of light shot straight through one of her machines. It happened too fast to react. Hot froze in shock, the sudden horror flashing across her face as the realization hit whatever she had just unleashed. It was not over yet. The energy swept through the thick dust without pausing, skimming past machines and leaving scorch marks and warped metal in its wake. A sliver of dread crept over Hot when she realized the robot beside her had been destroyed in an instant. Only when it collapsed did she truly flinch. The danger was right there. The bizarre power froze her in place. She was finally starting to register what she was up against. "This one adapts," the figure said from inside the dust, stepping into view with a mocking, half-admonishing tone. "I suppose I was wrong about not delivering the groceries from the supermarket, but this is a bit much." Hot blinked in surprise and, suspicious, shot back, "What? Do not tell me you are K." He shrugged, cool as a breeze. Before she could react, he vanished from sight, and when her awareness snapped back, AG was standing right behind her. Too fast. In that instant a thin black streak sliced across her neck and she froze. He gave a small, satisfied smile and delivered the simple line, "Got you." Hot's face shone with sweat and her breathing hitched under the pressure. "Hey, cut me some slack," she pleaded. AG glanced at her for a moment, then lowered his weapon, uninterested in making a fuss. Hot seized the rare chance and slid back, putting safe distance between them. Her eyes stayed locked on him, her mind racing. Who was this guy? Dangerous, no doubt. In the sudden silence, AG broke it. "Is this your base?" she confirmed. "Yeah." With that answer, he kept probing. "I want to know what has been going on here." Any way to find out? A strange thought flickered through his mind. Weird that a hacker's base would be so thoroughly cleaned up. Hot snorted in annoyance. This one was definitely odd. After a beat, she and her robots set about tidying the wreckage. Muttering as she worked and biting on a tool, she grumbled, "Who had the nerve to turn the place into this? I can't even get into the lab." Meanwhile, AG lounged off to the side as if he could not be bothered to help. The metal tail thing, meanwhile, calmly enjoyed the magic stones it had collected. He made a mental note, comparing times. Since his level had risen, the metal tail no longer needed time to siphon skills. What used to take 30 seconds to a minute now happened instantly. It looked like it absorbed energy and extended the duration of its abilities. Not bad. I will keep this power to myself for a while. After futzing around for a bit, Hot wiped the sweat and mud from her face and reported, "All done." After a bit of bustling about, the stone wall before Hot split open. A white light poured through nothing that surprised her, and AG casually dropped down inside. They were met by a research room full of machines and a bank of modern computers. Stepping in, Hot muttered almost to herself. For the past year she would kept her eyes glued to that light source, her fingers flying over the keyboard with purpose. Today she would show whoever had wrecked this place who was responsible. A precise sequence of keystrokes finished with a decisive press of enter. The system immediately returned a searching prompt. In a heartbeat the final frame snapped into view. Lion frozen at the threshold of this very room. At the same time, the steady click of heels echoed and stopped in the pool of light. Within that hazy image, Anya appeared, black glasses lending her an elegant, arresting air that seemed to make the whole space hold its breath. Seeing a familiar face, she smiled with a provocative tilt. "Lion, it looks like you have wandered into quite a trap," she teased. Lion's brows twitched, but he forced the courteous smile to stay. "Anya, I do not have time to play games with you." That only made her more intrigued. The combination of that pretty face and that hot temper was oddly appealing. Before he finished, something cold and weapon-like already appeared in Anya's palm. At that instant Lion's survival instinct flipped him around and his gun was out in a single breath. "What?" But before he could squeeze the trigger, A cold gust whistled by as Anya slid behind him like a shadow. In that moment that felt frozen in time, the hot weapon in his hand split apart. Rage flashed across Lion's face. He ground his teeth. The woman seemed to anticipate his next move. He twisted his arm to take the blow and was forced to admit it hit hard. Seeing her face so calm, so effortless, he hissed under his breath with restrained fury. Damn it. The next instant she withdrew a pin as if she would completed some psychological disarming ritual. Wasting no time, she flipped through the air with a lithe roll and landed just out of reach. Lion remained there, clutching the wound, gasping unevenly. Once steady, Anya toyed with her hair and taunted him. So now you are terrified over a little cut, she said, the corners of her mouth curling. If it is not treated properly, the blood will just keep flowing until it kills you. Her voice was laced with mock pity. How inconvenient, she mused, especially for a soldier. Only then did Lion speak, suspicion hardening his tone. Attacking a soldier inside a military base, what are you playing at? The sharpness in his gaze fixed on Anya, weighing her. What was she really up to? Seeing his intense reaction, she deliberately softened her expression and reassured him. Now, do not be so tense. I am just here to offer you a product from the organization. As Anya spoke, she lightly swung the small vial between her fingers. A special kind of drug. The name alone made Lion freeze for a moment, his voice repeating it as if weighing every syllable. A special drug. His feet unconsciously stepped forward, as though trying to get a clearer look at the item in her hand. The instant his focus wavered, Anya glided forward, pushing her glasses up in one smooth motion. Before he could even regain his composure, the wheel of fate was unleashed. An invisible wave rippled outward from Anya, spreading through the air until it reached Lion in absolute silence. His pupils contracted sharply, reflecting fragments of impossible, nameless images. Jagged, disjointed visions tore through his mind, visions of chaos, horror, and a monstrous being of unimaginable power rampaging in the darkness. He saw himself and his comrades sprinting through devastation, the roar of the creature echoing behind them. Then, in one excruciating moment, Lion's body began to mutate, thick tendrils bursting out of his flesh. The pain was razor sharp, searing through his consciousness, yet he fought to hold onto his sanity. Faces around him twisted in fear and revulsion, especially that of Xiaoan, whose expression warped into something almost unrecognizable as she stumbled back, her eyes clouded with disgust. And finally, Barton's cold, merciless gunshot shattered everything, the bullet ending the nightmare with one echoing bang. That was the moment Lion snapped back to reality, gasping, drenched in cold sweat. His voice trembled with disbelief. What the hell just happened? Raising his head toward Anya, he glared warily, confusion and hostility flickering in his eyes. What do you want from me? Anya did not mince words. You are the one destined to receive my gift. As she finished speaking, a card shimmered into existence, the Chariot, from the tarot's major arcana, glowing faintly as if unlocked from the void. Lion took the vial from her hand and broke into unhinged laughter. Ha ha ha, he had already deciphered the hidden meaning behind her gift. Without hesitation, he plunged the sharp needle into his arm, embracing the injection like a man greeting salvation. So that is how it is. At that moment, Agee's jaw tightened as his fury boiled over. From behind the surveillance feed, he watched Anya manipulating Lion with her sharp, hypnotic gaze. The recognition hit him like a blow. His instincts screamed that she was dangerous. Zoom in on her face, he ordered, his tone low and cold. Hot's fingers flew across the keyboard, responding instantly to his command. Within seconds, a full HD portrait of Anya filled the screen. From what Agee knew both from his past life and his current understanding, it became clear. This woman was a high-ranking member of the organization. A group composed of individuals representing the symbols of the tarot. And Anya was not just any operative, she was among their leaders, the bearer of the Wheel of Fate. Her power had quite literally altered Lion's destiny. Once, Lion had been an SSS-tier hyper-adaptive individual in his past life. Agee knew exactly what Anya's ability was. The intricate pattern in her eyes was the mark of the tenfold Wheel of Fate. His teeth ground together as rage surged through him, his thoughts dark and venomous. So it is her. That woman. Hot, on the other hand, was anything but calm despite her name. The heat of frustration burned inside her chest as she watched Eiji's gaze fixated, almost devoured, by the glowing image on the screen. When she finally regained her composure, confusion clouded her expression. "Who is this woman?" she murmured to herself. "I have never seen her before." And as Hot pondered the next issue, her face drained of color, a chill crawling down her spine. Wait, lie on, he is the traitor. She had been so sure that man would never betray the army. Her eyes shifted slowly toward Eiji, who had remained completely focused since the beginning. The sharpness and calculation in her gaze revealed that she was planning something behind his back. Her hand moved casually, fanning herself to conceal her real actions, while a small mechanical insect she controlled silently activated, barely detectable. She was in the middle of her covert maneuver when Eiji's calm voice suddenly cut through the air, startling her so badly she nearly jumped out of her seat. "Why yes," she stammered instinctively. The video feed switched back to Anya, her voice dripping with arrogance as she spoke once more. "You have realized how unfair fate is, have not you? I will prepare you a stage for your revenge." Her offer was crisp and deliberate, every word like a promise of temptation. "How about here?" she added. Lie on, breathing heavily from excitement and the surge of newfound power, let out a rough laugh. "I am really looking forward to it." Moments later, the footage shifted to another location, an underground chamber filled with nothing but stone and something large covered under a tarp. Barton, the fifth-ranked monster Eiji had once faced, still looked human in the recording, his demeanor calm as he spoke with his comrade. "Lie on, are you planning to use this thing for another experiment?" His bright grin showed no trace of the monstrous cruelty he would one day unleash. "If our superior finds out you have been so reckless, you are going to get an earful. You know that, right?" A dangerous aura suddenly radiated from Lion's body as he shrugged casually. That might be true. His tone was calm, almost harmless, his face hidden behind a mask that looked so innocent it was almost pitiful. But if it succeeds, no one will ever find out. Then his finger pressed the button. The containment chamber erupted, a massive cage-like structure blazing up to the top of the cavern. Barton did not even flinch. His faith in Lion's work was absolute, but the soldiers around them were struck speechless, their jaws dropping open. What the hell? In mere seconds, the reinforced cover shredded apart, and a cloud of red dust exploded outward, spreading through the area like a storm. The fine, crimson powder descended like the last rain of the season, coating everything it touched. Then, a violent shockwave burst forth, its sheer destructive power enough to level everything in its path. The true horror, however, came moments later, when even Barton's eyes widened in disbelief. None of them realized what was happening until it was far too late. The microscopic dust particles were invading their bodies, slipping straight through to their brains. Before anyone could react, the unlucky soldiers began to convulse, their screams tearing through the cavern. Their bodies twisted grotesquely, flesh ripping apart as new limbs, fangs, and scales burst through. Within moments, they had transformed into aberrant monsters and turned on their comrades, attacking with mindless savagery. Barton, thanks to his exceptional strength and mental fortitude, resisted the mutation longer than the others, but even he could feel the corruption spreading inside him. You are behind this, are not you?" he growled. The answer was written all over Lion's face, the satisfaction, the calm, the madness. "You really are something special, Barton," Lion said softly, almost with admiration. "But you are still far from qualified." He turned his back, voice low and steady as he walked away. "One day, I will undergo the red dust baptism myself. And become a truly exceptional adaptive being." His tone was eerily serene, but every word dripped with venomous resentment. "Even though we grew up together in the orphanage. Even though we fought side by side as comrades, you still chose to destroy me," he muttered under his breath, his eyes dark with hatred. "You never gave me even the smallest chance to survive." "What the hell are you talking about?" Lion calmly recovered his composure, scanning and assessing the scene. "Then it is your turn to mutate." The final word fell, and the mass of monsters surged forward to attack because Lion was the only one still human-shaped in the room. No one got to touch him. Before he could so much as graze a single hair on his opponent, he detonated them with his psychic power. Wiping the bluish stains from his face, Lion showed no fear. Instead, he commented with casual amusement, "Monster blood is filthy stuff." Just when it seemed everyone was gone, someone behind him still screamed in terror. The researchers who had backed up to the door could not escape the clinging slime. None of them avoided it. One by one they were swallowed alive. At the same time, Barton on the other side endured assault at the cellular level while trying to tear away the covering slime. Through the haze, he could still make out the wide-open door and swore under his breath, "Damn it." Even knowing it was hopeless, Barton's sense of duty was so strong that he begged, "Lie on, do not let these things out." But the man in charge merely watched him, impassive. He did not care what would happen next. There were many innocent people outside. Then, without hesitation, Lyon literally scooped the things up as if he would heard Barton's plea and was acting on it decisive and blunt, with no second thought. Lyon actually did protect the outside from that wave of attack. But everything he did had a single objective: to completely annihilate the remaining people inside. The true pleasure was only just beginning.